change up the agenda a little bit, right? You're going to do that RDA and discussion towards the end for,
Just for that one idea,
I can
yes.
see with those.
so do we have anybody here yet for the other two, or?
Yeah, reading glasses.
I think we told the earliest one was, oh, we didn't give a time, did we, Carol?
Is that strong?
Is Flaherty at
Okay,
100
mine are like
Tilden
the
Road
beginning
for
ones.
septic?
Let's
That's
see.
Greg, so we could do that one right now.
Okay.
We'll warm up and get going, huh?
No, appreciate it.
You didn't draw a crowd yet, Greg, just wait. Thankful for small things.
There's nobody here.
Oh, yeah, thanks. On September 2nd, during the 6:15 meeting at the Town Hall, Scituate Conservation Commission will act on the request of Thomas Flaherty for determination of applicability of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Scituate Wetlands bylaws to repair a septic system on property located at 100 Tilden Road, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend.
Good evening. For the record, Gregory Morse Engineering, representing Thomas Flaherty, the property owner of 100 Tilden Road. This is a septic system repair project. The plan that we submitted, the bottom of the plan is Tilden Road. The house sits right here. It's serviced right now by a cesspool. That cesspool has failed a Title V inspection. So we're proposing a new septic system. It's in the backyard. It consists of a 1,500-gallon septic tank, a 1,000-gallon pump chamber, and a pressure-dosed leaching chamber system. It's in compliance with Title V. It's outside the 50-foot buffer zone. It's located at a minimum distance of 62 feet from the wetlands to the septic. The wetlands on the site, this is a bordering vegetated wetland highlighted in blue that takes up the back of the property. The 50-foot buffer is in red, the 100-foot buffer is in green. We have a straw wattle proposed around the limit of work down gradient side. We expect the project to take about a week to 2 weeks to complete beginning to end once it's commenced. It's primarily lawn area right now. There's no significant vegetation removal in that location that we have to do. It would be replanted as lawn when the project's done.
Penny?
And you're gonna fill in the old cesspool?
Yes.
What's this about contaminated soil within 5 feet? Oh, you're gonna remove it, okay.
Yeah, so any soil from the cesspool that's around the proposed septic system,
Yeah.
we dig out that soil and replace it with Title V sand.
Okay. No, it's out of the 50, I don't think it can fit it anywhere else.
Paul?
No questions.
Lisa?
Nothing?
I'm okay.
I don't know if anybody got out to see the site. It's definitely going to be great to have the cesspool replaced with a Title V system. But the property owner did a lot of cutting in the wetland and cleared the wetland and the buffer for a pretty good distance. So he was out there when I dropped by the site today, and I mentioned, you know, these wetland flags, everything beyond there is wetland. This is a buffer area, and I don't know if we want him to do any replanting. I mean, some of it's starting to grow back, but it's a pretty good-sized area that he cleared.
Where do you think his lawn extends to now, Pat?
The lawn probably goes to that row of bushes. It should go to there, but it's,
So roughly on the plan.
yeah, probably here. And then there's...
Probably pretty
buffer's
close to
been
where
cut.
the 50-foot buffer is.
Yeah.
Is where his lawn is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the rest of it's just, he cleared the...
It's cut from here to here.
It was all kind of brush when we were out there, and he has done some clearing, I know that.
Was any clearing done in the 50?
In the wetland,
So I haven't been out there
yeah.
lately.
No machinery though, right? It was just like cut with,
It's been a while. I mean, everything's up about a foot high now. There must have been machinery because there's no trees left back there.
stumps or anything?
I didn't notice stumps. There's some, you know, shrubs that have been cut, you know, bushes that have been cut. And there's some big trees in the back. He said he needed to get to those to trim the bushes and, I mean, trim the branches, but,
Okay.
So I told him we'd need to talk to him about that.
Yeah.
But the septic is
Yeah.
great. It's an old cesspool. It's an old site.
Right.
So,
Well, do you want to add anything to the orders, like make, a row of bushes on the 50 or some kind of
Or some demarcation.
Yeah.
yeah, at the minimum, I think. Yeah.
You think it's gonna revegetate, and we wanna have them put some markers, across the back of the septic or something like that,
Yeah.
I think that would be a reasonable.
I know Brad Holmes did the flags. He might have some thoughts of whether it's going to be grown back with native vegetation, or whether it's going to be all invasives. Right now, it looks like, grasses and sedges. It doesn't look too bad, but, did did Brad say anything to you?
What happens on either side of the property line? Are those areas clear, or are they grown up?
One side is a yard, to the north is a yard. The other side is all knotweed. So,
When are they gonna call that a native species?
Well, I think if we give him some
Seriously?
demarcation and then give him some information on what he's got back there, and let him know the rules, and then if we want to,
yeah.
it's hard to put those things on a radar screen, but
Right, it's an RDA. I mean, we could throw a condition in about, markers or
in
something,
50.
but we may want to take a look when we're visiting sites someday and just see what could go out there.
yeah,
Because it's in the wetland.
yeah.
So,
So can you put like a little fence so we'd know where the line
Well,
was?
usually we put the posts or something
Yeah.
like that,
Yeah.
just say, this is the
No disturb.
limit of,
And bushes, if you're going to do something like that, are really better than a fence.
Right,
Because a
right.
fence rots and falls down, but if
Right.
you get a line of vegetation.
Okay,
yeah.
sounds good.
So we'll write a condition or two, and then we'll visit at some point.
yeah. Was there any erosion control needed, Greg? Do you have that?
I have that, along the down gradient.
Okay.
Going to work, yeah.
Pretty flat site.
We were talking the other day about, this isn't really the time, but get back to it. We've talked a while about what is appropriate for an RDA versus an NOI. We just had, actually, it was a septic system you did on Indian Trail. So in those cases where we have my feeling is, and maybe, Pat, this is something that we can work on as a committee to determine, to give the engineers and others some guidance. If we have an area that's pre-existing home, pre-existing septic, try to simplify it for the applicant.
Yeah.
Do that. We did the minor activities to help people with little projects.
Right.
Hopefully, an RDA is the appropriate filing unless it gets into a real sensitive area, or if it's an area that hasn't been disturbed, and then you look towards the
Right.
NOI.
This is,
Especially for septics. I mean, we're getting a great benefit if a septic is replaced.
And some of these
Yeah.
elevations too, depending on what
Right.
happens. I mean, I think those are things where there's a pre-existing property.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I mean, you can,
And generally, they're minimal impact. If they are a big impact project,
Right.
you can require
then
more.
think
But
about,
somebody
well, then we
lays-
just file, just give them a
Right.
positive determination.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, some of the ones that are inside the 50, they're, a grandfathered shed, a pool, sometimes those that need an NOI, but maybe if they're septic, they don't, but if they were replacing a pool or a shed, they might,
We went back and forth on this, last week, I think, in
Yeah, a
terms
little
of, if there was disturbance in the 50 or 100, I think that we were going to kind of lean towards an RDA, right?
Yeah,
Between 50 and 100.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
Right. The state does that to encourage people to keep outside the 50.
Right.
They give you breaks if you keep outside the 50,
all right.
so.
So, do I have a motion?
I make a motion for a -3 with the stipulations of planting and some kind of a marker that Pat is,
No, there's nobody in the audience, right, that wanted to speak to that? So, motion, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Stick around, huh?
Historical Society, are we going to continue that, did we decide?
Yeah. Were they going to show up to talk about it and then have us continue, or just?
I think
not
we
show?
told Dave that we'd just continue it. He asked if he needed to be here, and we said no. So, on September 2nd, during the 6:15 meeting at the Town Hall, the Scituate Conservation Commission will act on the request of the Historical Society for determination of applicability of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Scituate Wetlands bylaws to install 7 steps to the left of the grist mill to complete public access to property located at 16 Country Way, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend.
No.
So,
This is
can I,
for
let me just explain it, or do you want to jump in? or-
Sure, go ahead.
So Pat and I met Dave Ball at the grist mill today. He had a scout that was interested in an eagle project, and what he wanted to do to the right side of the grist mill has a ramp and has some access, but to the left side, it's just a steep embankment. And when you walk around the back of the grist mill, you sort of stop and you have to turn around. They were hopeful to bring some steps up on the other side of the grist mill. But in looking into that and also our okay on the knotweed thing, we realized that there's jurisdiction between the water resources and water department and a whole bunch of things, and I think we really need to back up and readdress that a little bit. So we're gonna look at that some more before we do anything in that area.
Because it's proximity to the water sources
The
and stuff
water,
like
the
that,
brook,
yeah, right, yeah.
the whole bit. Plus, if you think about it, that's really an impoundment, and if you're gonna dig into that, you could potentially disturb it.
I'm glad you thought of that, because that's a
So-
really good point.
You know?
That's something that the scouts and I and,
I mean, you look at it and you think,
Right.
what's the big deal? But it is a
Right.
dam. And I do recall, it was probably, last year, the year before, the water department came to us, and they wanted to clear all the vegetation off the
that's
upper
right.
dam
Yeah.
and the lower one. So there's a method to get approval to do that work, but we need to look at those. Why don't you pull that folder, Carol, when you get a minute?
I talked to Jimmy DeBarros, he wants to talk to us about it.
Yeah, so let's get
yeah.
that, we'll take a look at how that was permitted.
Yeah.
We'll look and see how they deal with vegetation, and then see if we're on the right track, and maybe we can get back to the Historical Society. But I think we're gonna continue this so that they don't have to re-advertise.
Right.
I'd put the thing out for a couple months, Penny.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
You know what, though, he's up against the age thing, too. He
Yeah, but
may-
so that scout is gonna, if he decides to do it,
Oh,
we're
he'd
gonna
go in the
request that
other
you
one.
give him a minor activities permit. We can discuss that as soon as we get this
Sure.
piece, if you don't mind. We'll
Sure.
just do it right now.
Okay, yeah.
So you want me to go out like November 4th, November 18th?
Sure, let's take that up around Christmas time. Thanksgiving's good.
Special meeting on December 24th. Yeah.
4th or 18th, dear?
The 18th is good.
Okay. I make a motion that we continue the Scituate Historical Society,
Easy for you to say.
16 Country Way, until November 18th. And it's an RDA, so there's no time.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. So, what Dave was gonna try to talk to this young man about was, rather than building that, when you go to the Old Oak and Bucket House,
Yeah.
they have, it's like a circular driveway, you pull in, it's a little garage, and then between that and the building, we conditioned a little
Bridge or walkway.
walkway over an
Yeah.
intermittent
Yeah.
piece. Then the trail goes out and it splits left and right, and part of it goes up to a little trail and some areas there, and then the left side goes to a huge buttonwood tree.
And it stops
Yes.
right there.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, it stops.
but that path to the buttonwood tree is really bare ground, and I'm sure it's muddy and messy when it's wet.
Yeah.
So, what I suggested to Dave is in those few areas where that's tough, he could put down some 4x4s and then put some planking over it, but put them down so the 4x4s are perpendicular to the trail, and then the walkway is parallel, so that anything that flows through there can just
Right, right.
go underneath.
Yeah.
And it's like three little sections, there might be,
Yeah, we have some standards from DEP on temporary crossings in a wetland for walking purposes.
Okay.
And I could get that to Dave.
And they've loosened those up a little bit, so,
Yeah.
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 that'd be
Right.
super. So
Yeah.
that was he was gonna talk to this scout. This is the same scout that cleaned the Ellis parking lot for us.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
So, he'd like to get that going. So if you could make a note, maybe you could shoot him a minor activities permit with a little bit of that information.
Okay.
You could get that done in this time. frame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I learned that, I think the Historical Society's doing better with the Scouts than we are.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
Maybe we should
stealing
just
them.
turn down a
Yeah.
couple of their projects
Yeah.
and
Yeah, right, and get them done.
We
Hold
tried
the scouts
in the
hostage.
past.
shovel-ready stuff if they
Years
want.
ago, we tried in the past and we got nowhere. Historic.
So we got like 5 more minutes before we can do,
You even
10
say the
minutes.
word?
No, we have...
Oh, we're ready? Actually-
We're at 6:30, we could,
6:30, we could continue Lindbergh.
yep. This is a elevation down, way down the end near Fourth Cliff. They came in and there was, the permit application wasn't ready, so they asked for some more time.
Yeah.
This was the case of the cobbler's kid doesn't get any shoes. The
Yeah.
owner of Gale Engineering, and he had
Right.
about the worst set of plans I've seen. There's no time for your own stuff.
How far out do you want to go with this?
Cal, do you know if they requested any particular amount of time?
They didn't, I know they went to Habanero.
Yeah, oh yeah, so Cavanero's been working on maybe just the next meeting. Late. I think we have a lot of
Wait a minute.
enforcement.
Oh, yeah, you do. Well, you have 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, you have quite a few. When you say late, 8?
7:30.
7:30.
All right. I make a motion, we continue Lindbergh 265 Central Ave to September 16th at 7:30.
Penny, do we have 1 or 2 scheduled earlier than that night
One
too?
at 7 o'clock, Costello, lot 3132, Fieldstone, concrete driveway, access.
Okay, because public safety, yeah, public,
Oh, wait a minute, they're at 6:30.
oh, okay.
Then it's 7 there, and then
Okay.
this. Okay?
Second?
All in favor?
Hey, I'm not gonna be at that meeting on the 16th, so whatever we've got, we have to look at.
16th. Okay,
Whatever we got coming up, we gotta look
and
at.
you've been at the other public safety ones?
Yep.
Okay. Just a quick one on that. On the school hearing that's on tonight, I think you 4 were there, and I think, Paul, you missed one, you were gonna read in the minutes. So everybody else is eligible, I think, for the school vote?
That could be tonight?
Did you read it?
It could be.
Okay.
Oh.
I mean, it could be
he's
closed.
read it.
Yeah.
Right, Paul's good.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I meant, yeah.
That's right, there won't be a vote
Paul's
anyway.
informed,
It would
so
be, it would only be close or don't close.
Yep.
Okay. So we all set with that? We got a
Yes.
vote?
Yep.
How about Venti, Vaughn, Walker, Kerner, Thomas, Surfside Road, the revetment?
Did you get one? I make a motion to close.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
I think
Painless.
we're gonna try to do the orders tonight too. I think
Okay.
we brought them in, and I think, this is not, new stones and not, this is just moving the ones that are out by the
Yeah.
beach back up. And we saw a presentation yesterday, they're all, they're in favor of doing that. I mean, making sure they're in the right place, so.
Yeah. No problem
Okay.
with that one.
Got about 2 minutes here. Before Sutton.
We could talk about Noah.
Sure.
You're up. It sounds like there's gonna be more information tomorrow, maybe,
Yeah, before I got involved, NOAA made their NOI application to you. The DEP had contacted them asking for the stormwater checklist to be submitted with that NOI application. And then I got hired into the mix. We put the plan together, unaware of that previous correspondence. So DEP, I guess, has held out on issuing a file number for that job as well. I have a contact at DEP now to send the checklist to. I was made aware of that, so we sent the checklist down, I believe it was Monday, and I'll give Pat a copy of the same thing.
Do you have
so-
a name, a person in there now?
Yeah, it's a woman's name, I
Oh, okay.
forget it off the top
Why,
of my head.
why did that trigger stormwater?
Well, we were gonna require the local stormwater bylaw,
Yeah.
but I don't think it triggered DEP, but they heard parking lot in a resource area.
Oh.
And not knowing much about it, they asked for it, and I think we were gonna say, do you really need it?
Yeah, and the original reviewer with DEP in the interim has retired as well, so it's being reviewed by a different person at this point in time as well.
Well, it's nice to know one bureaucracy's holding up another.
For a change.
Can I question, that Sunset Road is made up of like road material. It's a crushed gravel, and it's really dusty, and that was one of the neighbors' issues. Would they ever be allowed to use crushed asphalt on that driveway in that location, do you think?
Flood zone, though, we've been dealing with the same thing down on Hummerock.
Yeah.
We're trying to keep asphalt products out of there, because it's all A-zone down the end of Sunset there.
Well, at the base, but like,
As you go up,
yeah, I mean, I noticed it the other day, I looked down and I saw a car or truck coming up there and, it looked like Pigpen from Charlie Brown. I mean,
Yeah.
that thing's just engulfed
yeah.
in dust, and I know that was one of the concerns of the neighbors. I think the town maintains that, and periodically they dump, a crusher run or something,
Yeah.
but that makes dust. The crushed asphalt really doesn't.
Yeah.
And
That
just,
dust isn't good.
Yeah, the crusher run is what the town is using, and DEP, when we met with them, they were against asphalt materials, but there's nothing in black and white. I think that's something we should try to find out more, what is allowed, what works, what doesn't work.
it's too bad you guys can't like scrape a bunch of that off the road, put it down in your parking lot and put some asphalt on the upper part of Sunset. At least it might make the neighbors a little happy, but, oh.
Yeah, that is something we should have in our regs, for this type of site, we're gonna always recommend this, and,
Right,
yeah.
okay. Sutton, 174 Branch.
Word. Really?
Greg will be doing all the presentations.
Yeah.
Yeah. This one, we did receive some materials today that we may want to read in. You guys haven't seen it, I don't think, because Jeff had been working on it, and he submitted revisions to Josh Bowes at Merrill. Josh responded back, and then just today, we got Josh's responses back to Jeff's answers. This is stormwater.
Yeah, is that the one that he didn't like the calculations on one area that we had to redo? He had to redo?
There was,
There was one sub-catchment area.
Yep, that was it, yep.
Yeah.
Josh had a couple of questions on how we had calculated the time of concentration. Jeff Hassett from my office sent a response and revised the calculations. Josh just issued his last comment letter, which is dated today, September 2nd. I skimmed through this a few minutes ago. It looks like he's okay with everything. As Pat said, you may want to take a read of it before the meeting real quick, but it seems like Josh is okay with everything as it currently stands.
Did you get a chance to review it, Pat?
just got it, and I was hoping we could maybe look at it or read it tonight.
Does anybody else, you guys got copies to take a look at?
I'm bringing it up right now, yeah.
Yeah.
You can read it right there, Bill.
Or I could do that. Yeah.
Carol,
Not quite as sexy,
Carol,
but,
did each of them have a copy, or? Oh, okay, so they could all
You're
read.
sitting next to me, too.
yeah, there we go.
I'm rubbing off on you.
Then he just puts on like 2 pair of glasses, Bill.
Make sure I can see everything.
Josh one.
That's the Josh one, okay. And this was Jeff's answers, so these are responding.
Okay, this
Jeff's
is for
answers,
the
okay.
new house. And this just drives me stupid. I get confused. Everything.
So the
Two
work
sets
that's
of-
going on over there now, is that the septic on the existing house?
Yes, actually different lot now, yeah.
That we approved.
That cottage house.
In the main house, I think. Yeah.
There's two septics going?
One went behind the cottage.
And one's outside the buffer.
Oh.
Yeah.
You saw one of them in here.
Yeah. So, he seems happy. Design, choose the goal. I don't like anything with these people. Standards met, standards met, standards met.
Craig, do you have a copy of this?
I just got it, yes.
So, in the low impact requirements, section 8, the stormwater regulations, number 3, it says treat stormwater in numerous small decentralized structures. The site is designed to achieve this goal. What's the difference between that and then the project achieves the goal?
The site is designed to achieve this goal. The project achieves this goal.
We're just trying to mix it up.
The purpose behind it is, rather than recharge all your stormwater in one basin in one location, to try to get multiple points of recharge throughout the site, which we accomplish through the dry wells, the rain garden, the infiltration.
Okay.
Just redundant.
You're gonna take the car or the automobile.
Greg, what's the engineering reason for grading the north side of the driveway and rather than leaving the trees? Is there a reason that is a benefit to the site, or is it just to create lawn, or?
It's a sloping area. It would require the use of a rather significant retaining wall, to get the driveway in.
If trees were there, you'd have a wall at the closest edge to the driveway.
Correct.
So I think that was one of the questions that came up. If you're looking at low-impact development, is there a vegetative solution? I know you've got a couple of different dry wells, structures for stormwater, but you would need fewer of them if that was vegetated. But it requires a wall, and because of septic being in that area, is that playing?
No, it's the grading of the driveway. You're running a driveway along a contour line coming in from Curtis Street, so you have to flatten the driveway. And, the topography it slopes that location. So to make up the difference, you either have to grade it out or provide a retaining wall. Typically, we could grade the thing out a little bit steeper. You could go up to a 2-to-1 slope or so to reduce your vegetative clearing. This is in the Water Resource District, though, and they have a maximum grading of 4-to-1 slopes, and so that complies with the 4-to-1. It's about half as steep as we put it on.
Question? Yep. In section 9, number 8, response A, long-term operation maintenance table, notwithstanding the comments below, and there are no comments below. Did we cut and paste, or?
That may be going back to the previous letter, where there were comments for.
So I'm assuming that those, whatever comments they were answered?
Yeah, the first set of comments were addressed in there.
Under that same section report said, yeah, notwithstanding comments below, and then they had 12 revisions, the T sub C calculations, updated hydrocad calculations, the detail of the cross-section of the trench. So they had those 12 additional comments that we responded to.
Okay, great, thanks.
Great, what was the main revision to the site plan since the original plan? Was it, I mean, originally there was one basin down in the far corner. Now it looks like there's grading and swales there. And then you have the basin in this area.
Yeah, we changed it from a side garage to a front load garage, between the two, and then, you know, just accommodating the revised driveway, but that made us go with the side basin instead.
And the driveway, does that go just above the septic system then, or does it?
It does, it goes over a portion of the
Portion,
septic system.
okay.
Yep. No.
They wish.
And the people were concerned down by Sue Farrell's dream wall. Remember that meeting now?
Do you have any questions?
No, as long as Merrill's happy, I'm happy.
No questions.
Lisa?
Nothing.
Anything else, Pat?
I was just looking in section 9 again, where number 4, the TSS removal in the Water Resource Protection District. And the explanation of what DEP allows, and how does that, what does that mean?
So TSS is total suspended solids, that's solids that are mixed in with your stormwater. You're required to remove 80% of those suspended solids prior to your discharge to a wetland. DEP has rated all of the BMPs that we use. The catch basin, for example, removes 25% of the solids. An infiltration trench removes 80% of the solids. Merrill's opinion here says that he's expecting that we're going to get 90% TSS removal, so it meets the threshold. I suspect he's saying that because between the infiltration trench and the wetland, we have a large vegetated area that any suspended solids that overtop that trench will still have a chance to settle out on the lawn, or they'll have a chance to settle out in the natural, the 50-foot buffer zone that's left.
You're getting positive credits in some of that, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
DEP doesn't give us a credit for
Yeah.
that overland flow area. Merrill's saying we're gonna get that essentially.
So it's good.
Okay.
Yeah,
Does anybody want to, anybody else in the audience, 174 Branch Street? Yes, sir.
Yeah, Peter McGowan, I'm a butter, and I'm sorry, I'm cutting it slow, but it is a fairly severe slope. And I understand from the initial, and this might have changed, but it sure looks like they'd like to clear cut from Curtis Street back to the dwelling, the proposed dwelling. Is that still the case? And I've written a letter, I think you guys hopefully got a copy of that. No?
It may have been in the past, but...
Greg, you want to answer what's cleared or?
So our limit of clearing does run along the side lot line from Curtis Street down, runs around the house, and then along the southern property line, as we get closer to Curtis Street, we bring that up so that we're maintaining a buffer in this area, we're maintaining the existing trees in here. But yes, effectively, there's a swath right here, it's about 60 feet wide, that comes back, and then it opens up to 80 feet wide, and at the house here, it opens up to 100 feet wide that we are clearing.
Borrow your chair for a second. Yeah, so the area that you propose to cut is the steepest. And the area you propose to leave uncut is relatively flatter. Isn't that kind of upside down the way it should be? I mean, I'm just a layman, but it would seem to me that the more severe the slope, the more runoff you're gonna get, the more erosion you're gonna get, and you're gonna end up at the bottom of the hill, so to speak, collecting a lot more volume of liquid than you used to, that used to sink into the soil naturally, and that's gonna get carried off to someplace in the Mediterranean. And then again, there's the question of where it gets carried off to, what's the soil like there?
Well, that's all in the stormwater calculations.
Is it, what's the clay content there? How long is the water gonna sit there? I mean, I lived there, I looked down on the still water for months.
Well, I don't know if you caught, we had a discussion a little bit about, we had an engineer review this, Merrill, and we have a report which we can give you a copy.
I got a copy of Merrill's.
That just came today.
Oh, no, I don't have that.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So Greg was just explaining a couple pieces about the slope. Maybe you want to repeat that?
I apologize for being...
No problem.
So we looked at where to site the driveway. What happened is we went out there, performed perk tests to try to site the septic system. The location that we sited the septic system, the grade is coming up a little bit. With that coming up, that really is what determines what the elevation of our driveway is. That's what drove us to the location that it is, where we had suitable soil for perking, where we could achieve a gravity septic system from the house. Then we went out, we located the trees. The trees out front there are rather significant trees. The topography in this location certainly is a little flatter, but you'd be losing the vegetation that exists out here along the street.
I never looked to see what is on the other side for vegetation. What's growing now on the
Upland trees.
north side of the driveway, proposed driveway?
It's a mix of primarily maple, I believe.
It's a mix of trees and bushes, and it's been there undisturbed for, I've been there 37 years, undisturbed for 37 years, and the vegetation he's talking about is 5 fruit trees planted in the past 6-7 years. Maybe 10 years max.
As far as
On the lawn, so it's not heavy.
And what was the piece that you mentioned about the slope, the required slope in a water resource?
yeah, so the required slope, the maximum allowable slope is a 4-to-1 slope in the water resource district. Engineering-wise, I could make that a steeper slope and disturb less area, but zoning in this town requires a 4-to-1 slope, and I have to comply with that 4-to-1 slope. As far as soils, the question about soils, perk tests out here ranged, we had 3 minutes an inch, 29 minutes an inch, 6 minutes an inch, generally classified as sandy loam and loamy sands for the soil conditions. Adequate for drainage, adequate for a septic system. Those were witnessed by the town board of health agent when the perk testing was done. The concern about where the water goes from this site after the development's done, it goes in a couple of different locations. Primarily the driveway. The driveway here, whether the driveway's in the middle of the site or whether the driveway's at the lower half of this lot line, it's accepting all the water that comes down off of this hill from the McGowan property and from the abutting property here to the north. So that water will all come down and hit the driveway. Along the edge of the driveway, we have a crushed stone trench, which will let water infiltrate into the ground in those locations. The roof, we've collected the roof, and we've collected that and directed it into a leaching dry well in the backyard, so the roof drains are connected to that. The driveway portion immediately in front of the garage is graded, so that goes to a rain garden in the corner of the property here, where again, we'll have a chance for stormwater to settle out, we'll have a chance for stormwater to infiltrate into the ground. Ultimately, when everything overtops, it will run down gradient to this wetland off-site on the Hassett property. That wetland is connected to the wetlands on the Pippin property and Dreamwald Road. We analyzed the drainage for the 2, the 10, and the 100-year storm events. We've shown that we're not increasing the rates or volumes for any of those events to those down gradient properties, and that's what Merrill concurs with.
Now, there was significant variance in the testing, what's the term for it?
The perk test?
Yes, perk test. Very quick perking and then kind of slow perking. And that variation was so wide, there was a caution, I think, raised by Merrill about more consistent absorption rates. That's my term. How was that addressed?
So what we did is we analyzed the soil, we designed the septic system, we designed stormwater systems using the slowest perk test that we achieved.
So I'm saying the natural leaching of stormwater north of the driveway, let's call it, that won't be the natural leaching. That won't be diminished at all because it'll be caught by the driveway and put through this crushed stone catch basin, so to speak.
Sure. It's the natural leaching, north side of the driveway, will be diminished slightly because you have a wooded condition right now. When you convert that wooded condition to a grass condition, you're going to get an increase in runoff.
Right.
That increase in runoff is what we mitigate through the crushed stone.
Yeah.
I have a concern in that Peter submitted a letter to us, and we log it in and we scan it out to people. If you haven't seen it, it might be good to, get this letter and take a look at it. This was maybe 2 weeks ago. Do you have it with you by any?
I do know, I'm sorry.
Because what we usually do is we scan it and email it out. And if you haven't seen it,
I think I looked at it, be honest with you, I've had so many things.
right. No, it was related to the existing conditions over the past many years and, the steep slopes on the site. And
It's a tricky spot, there's no doubt about it. But we did wind up having the whole purpose of having a review engineer, and I know this went back and forth a few times with Merrill
Right.
and Morse to get what they felt was
Work.
correct remedies for these issues. If we think that there's something else that can be done to the site, but our consultant is saying that after this back and forth, they've met those conditions for our stormwater. Is that right?
Right, and I think one of the requests is that you meet as much LID as you can on the site. And
Right.
so swales, crushed stone trenches and things like that are,
That's what's happened over the past couple of weeks is Morse Engineering made changes to the plan, Merrill reviewed them, it got kicked back at least
twice, yeah.
2 or 3
Yeah.
times. I remember seeing things go back and forth.
And the standards have been met,
I
right?
mean, my concern, and my understanding is that the town typically likes to have as little clearing of natural habitat as possible, natural tree growth and so on.
Right.
Is that correct?
Well, there's that, but then at the same time, if they go to develop a site, they need to put in a driveway, they need to put in a septic
So then
system.
to the extent that you prevent
Right.
building 12, I know, building a driveway.
And unfortunately,
This is,
what Mr. Morse is saying is that in order to meet the design criteria of the stormwater, that slope on the north side of the driveway has to be a 4-to-1 slope. He's saying that he might be able to make it a 2-to-1 slope and it would stay there
there's no house.
so that you'd have less disturbance between the driveway and the property line, about half of it. But because it's in the water resources area, they require a 4-to-1 slope.
I think
So in order to design that site to meet that requirement, he's actually forced to clear more. Maybe I'm oversimplifying it, but,
That's exactly correct. And the location of the house is as far forward on the lot as we can put it to comply with zoning. With zoning, you have to have a lot width through the dwelling. It's measured parallel with the street, and that's as close to the street as we can get it to comply with that lot width requirement, which is 125 feet in the B zone.
Well, where the house is, the depth of the lot is not really a big issue. the issue is how much natural tree growth we want to cut down, and how much of it's really necessary to cut down. And it seems upside down to me that because it's a water resource area, you have to cut down more trees to satisfy.
Well, because what they're trying to avoid is a very steep slope that would technically have more erosion. So by having, you have a slope that's like this, or one that's like this, that lower slope could be better vegetated and would less likely erode.
It allows the water to run slower over it because it's less of a slope and allows more water to infiltrate into the ground.
I don't disagree with what you're saying. It's a little counterintuitive, but I do also see that their position on that piece. And it's not like we haven't had the first time where we've run kind of contrary to some of the other requirements. I mean, I don't know that there's another way to do this that would have less.
No, because ultimately, this whole project is designed to comply with regulations. And that's the yardstick they have to work with.
Plus, where the majority of that clearing along the driveway, that's out of the 100-foot.
Right.
Okay, the 100-foot's right here, Frank. This is all over here. This is out of our jurisdiction, actually. And it is...
Well, except for the stormwater jurisdiction.
Yes. But the flow is not going upwards, it's coming down into staying on their property. And that, I thought, was kind of our biggest concern. You know, that you keep any water on your own property.
Yep.
Don't send it to your neighbor. And I do think at the earlier meeting, we had asked for consideration of the house being between the 100 and the 50 of some type of planting mitigation.
That's what I was just going to ask, if on that slope, is there any possibility of plantings? Because it's going to be grass lawn on a 4-to-1 slope now, right? And there's a tree line left along the border of the property. The tree line is shown, there's an as-built tree line on there?
Yeah, the existing tree line shown.
Right. And is there a possibility of beefing that up at all?
Some plantings on the slope. I'm sure there is. There's plenty of area. Again, it's outside the 100-foot buffer.
Right.
I mean, I don't know if you want some plantings on the back slope, inside the 100-foot buffer maybe. I'm not sure what the finished landscape, I can't say that it's going to be, we've designed it as 100% lawn up there, but they may be planting a whole planting area in that. I don't know. It's going to depend on how the end user landscapes it. We've assumed worst case scenario that it's all lawn.
Right, and for our stormwater calculations, that's fine. It's just to move this along, I didn't know if that would be something.
Well, I know before the orders go out, I feel as though I don't have the minutes before me, but we did discuss that there would have to be some sort of mitigation for the 3/4 or more of that new build, not an existing build, a new build in the 100-foot, between the 150. So, I definitely want to sit down, Pat, before the orders were done in 2 weeks. And I'll pull the other minutes up, but I can't imagine that my recollection is completely wrong, that I asked that there'd have to be something on a new build, some kind of mitigation to cut all in our jurisdiction,
Is there anybody else in the audience? We have all the information. If Penny's correct that there should be some mitigation for that, can we have an order asking for some plantings on that slope as
could-
mitigation,
So close and then request that there be consideration of plantings?
or that there has to
Subject to an approved planting plan, like Greg said, if they come up with something that they want to plant closer to the wetland, it could even be more beneficial, right? Versus the slope.
Yeah, it's great.
Subject
be. I
to,
mean, typically, we would look for plantings in the property and the wetlands, not necessarily
Yeah.
dealing with the slope, but I think we could look at that, and if that was, made better sense on that project.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's outside the 100, so it would be more of a request, you know,
But
but,
But in orders, we've
Yeah.
made requests.
we do.
I mean, it's something I would like to sit down and look at, because I don't have the minutes before me.
there'll be, then why don't we just say that, so that the applicant knows, there will be a request for some sort of planting plan, and if we can come up with a reasonable one for this site, then
Right, and then we can close tonight pending,
we can close it
Yeah.
and
Okay.
have the orders at the next meeting. Well, do we want to close tonight, or we want to close next week and have the orders ready? And then that way we can take the information. I'd prefer to do that,
I prefer to do that.
okay.
But that's
All right.
fine.
all right?
Okay.
So what we're going to do, I'm sorry, I
Thank you.
forget, your
Sorry?
your last name?
McGowan.
Mr. McGowan, so we're going to continue this hearing to the next meeting. We're going to let the applicant come back with some planting pieces. We can discuss them at the next meeting, see if that's going to work. Just, maybe it's way too late to think about this, Greg, but I don't know if there's any large rocks on the side of there. Do you know if you... Yeah. I was going to say, the only other thought that I would have is that you would build a small retaining wall at the base of that and leave maybe 10 or 20 feet of vegetation at the bottom. But I don't know that you'll get, you can't have a wall that's more than a couple of feet high, so I don't know how much, with those topography, that's only going to leave about maybe 4 feet.
Undisturbed.
Yeah. So maybe it'd be better to think about some plantings along there or something like that.
I think.
All right? So we will continue it, we'll discuss that, and then if we're in agreement, then we'll issue orders at the next meeting, if we're in agreement.
So we'll have orders ready in case.
Yeah.
But we're gonna, in the meantime, talk about plantings along that piece as a way to buffer that.
Maybe I missed it, I don't know. Okay, so, do you have any, it'll be September 16th. Do we have a preference time?
So you had, what was it, 7:30?
Okay, 6:30 we have the public safety, 7 o'clock Fieldstone, then 7:30 265 Central.
So 7:40,
Okay,
7:35,
7:35. I make a motion, we continue Sutton 174 Branch Street to September 16th at 7:35.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bradley, 10 Montvale.
I have to look at
Thank you.
Lisa, will you put that down and then get back to that?
Certainly.
Thank you.
Right, did they not get the last meeting? Okay, oh, okay.
And can you see this plan?
Good evening. This is a repair project on Montvale Ave, repair for the driveway. We've been before you 2 times before. Primarily, the applicant, Mr. Bradley, was proposing a turnaround on the existing Montvale Ave. He was proposing a crushed stone drainage trench down along the side of it, and then he was proposing plantings within an area that he had previously disturbed this past spring. We had provided a planting list by Brad Holmes at the last meeting. It sounded like everyone was in agreement on plantings and in agreement on the drain trench, but we were having issues with the turnaround area. The turnaround area, what we had proposed was up here in this location. What we've done is we've eliminated that turnaround area. We have made a couple of other minor changes to the plan, though. Right at the end of Montvale Ave, where Montvale Ave comes down the edge of the existing gravel, off the edge of the existing gravel, this is existing lawn area. We're asking to take up a small portion of that lawn and put down some additional gravel, just to help with turning around at this location. It's significantly smaller than what was originally proposed in its removal of lawn surface as opposed to removal of vegetated wetland area.
What kind of square feet are we talking about? Rough.
4 feet by 20 feet of maintained lawn.
I'd like it to be more of a circular area.
We've proposed the same plantings, the plantings that Brad Holmes had suggested. 320 square feet of switch grasses in this location. And then in this location over here, we have plantings consisting of eastern red cedar trees, and then beech plum, bayberry, or shadbush shrub plantings. They were what Brad felt was appropriate to the site. They cover more than the area that was originally disturbed. We feel it would be an improvement to that habitat area. I've also added to the plan a shaded area here. Musquashnet Pond is choked off with Phragmites. We're asking for permission to just cut the Phragmites along the edge by hand. Not to remove any Phragmites with machinery or anything, but just to cut by hand, kind of as an invasive species management.
Can I just ask, how do you dispose of that? Because if you do it at the wrong time, the seeds are gonna drop as you're walking it to the dump or whatever. I mean, how do you dispose of something like that?
The, on the driftway, Go Green will accept those.
They'll accept Phragmites?
I don't know if they accept them at certain times a year or how they process them, but we've had them accept them in the past.
Okay,
A lot
so,
of people just cut them and let them drop and rot, you know.
that,
Be okay with that. if that's-
yeah,
And we've actually encouraged the cutting of Phragmites.
I'm all for it.
Just throw it in the back with Phragmites is one now.
Yeah, we just,
One of these plantings that was rationale to try and displace
right.
Phragmites and the other invasive.
Just cutting them and letting them drop and rot there, and it kind of suffocates some of the other ones.
Coming out.
Okay, Penny?
I'm happy.
Bill?
I'm good, I appreciate all the work that you've done. Thank you.
Looks good.
What's the infiltration trench?
Yeah, we're still good with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
The original idea of the turnaround was to put the turnaround, the crush and run on top of the infiltration trench. I just thought that would be a better place to put the turnaround. Since there's going to be an excavated area with gravel for a catch basin. But I'm happy just to cut into the yard a little bit, basically extending Montvale, more of a circular pattern that's depicted there. A place to push snow as well.
Yeah, the trench, the gravel trench, does it come up and then it takes a right angle turn?
Where it turns to the north.
Along the edge of the driveway?
Graded down towards the north. And that's where I was considering the catch basin.
There's already a catch basin drain there, so we'd basically be tying into that with a little bit larger drainage trench. Additional crushed stone in that area just to allow for more infiltration along the sides of the roadway.
And then you have vegetation beyond that, right there.
Plantings. Yes. It's all within the existing gravel surface. It's within the existing gravel driveway. brush swath.
Yeah, I think the biggest concern last time had been,
The
cutting
turnaround.
into the buffer close to the wetland for the turnaround, and that takes care of that.
But you're going into the grass that's already there.
Yep.
By 4 feet, 20 by 4.
This is the switchgrass area.
Yes, right
Yeah.
at the
Basically
end.
extending Montvale the way it looks in the plans, towards the pond, not going anywhere close to the pond.
Yeah.
Greg, just as a educational opportunity for me, when you have water running off a grass surface as opposed to water running off a gravel surface, what is the speed difference that, rough numbers that is calculated at that? I know it depends on the pitch, but
It's all based off of what's called a curve number. And a runoff curve number is based off of what the ground surface condition is. It's also based off of what the underlying soil condition is. This out here is probably a Class C or D soil. It's not a great infiltrative soil, okay? That being said, the curve number associated with lawn is probably in the 86 to 85 range in there. The runoff from a gravel road is probably a little bit higher, 89 to 91. I like to think of it as in percentages, meaning 89 or 91% of the water is going to run off. It's not a direct percentage. The numbers are based out of 100. So you are going to get a little bit more runoff off the gravel surface as opposed to lawn. Not much.
Yep.
In this case here, you're discharging to a tidal body anyways.
thanks.
It's down.
Anybody in the audience?
I had a question. I don't understand the purpose of putting in that 4 by 20 gravel extension at the end of the road. I just don't understand the,
Sure.
4 by 20 is not really what I want. I wanted more of a circular.
or even if it's circular, I don't understand the purpose of putting.
Are you driving over that now?
Basically, if you have two cars parked right now in this location, when they back up, it's nice to have an area to back up so that you can head up the road a little bit more effectively when you're backing out of this spot. They'll just provide that much more area to turning. It also provides an additional area to pile snow during the winter.
That's where the town's been pushing the snow. The bush is there. This was significantly damaged from the snow, as well as where we put the front end over. So that gravel and stuff, every year I have to try and dig the gravel out of the yard, basically.
Yeah.
So it's becoming a turnaround slowly. I have to keep rescuing the gravel.
Yes, ma'am.
My understanding though is that Montvale Ave goes right to the pond. And right currently, he's got grass across the road and is now, proposing this circular turnout area. I mean, to me, it's the road. It's the road. So
I can make it look like a road, so I just extend Montvale down straight.
Montvale Ave goes to the pond.
But it's not, there's a grass area. What they're proposing is to remove some grass and put some gravel.
There's grass
The
in my pocket.
Montvale is a road as a paper street at that point, and it's not really traveled on, and there's others in that area that do the same thing.
Right.
So what they're saying, at least what I'm seeing, is that they just want to extend the gravel 4 more feet.
Closer to the pond. So that they take out the lawn and put more gravel in. Okay, and then what about the rocks that are currently in the middle of the street there?
The rock was granite block that we brought in to put on top of the revetment, shore up the revetment, and when I was told to stop, I just left them sitting in the driveway. I since moved them from the driveway a couple of feet, and just put them in an organized way.
I don't know where the rocks are.
I don't have a picture to show, but
Some of the
They were
pictures I think
along-
that
they were
were
along
previously
there.
brought, there's an existing stone wall that you'll see that kind of runs along the Squashnet Pond here and here.
this shows the revetment, it goes all the way around.
You can see the existing rock revetment here. I think there were some additional stones brought into place along that revetment.
Some of them are sitting basically on the edge of the yard. There's another one.
Thank you.
Yeah, I get it.
I know.
But in front of these rocks, he planted grass seed. This whole area was dug up by him. This was-
So, I'm sorry, your question on the rocks?
If they're gonna be removed.
Yes, those rocks, and just, I was told to stop, I stopped, remove this mini excavator that we were using to pick these granite blocks up, put them on top of the existing revetment. And I was told to stop, they were sitting in the driveway in the way, I just rolled them a few feet over. They're just sitting on the edge of the yard.
Yeah, this is where they're sitting right now. And
Okay.
then behind this grass area was where that new stone wall was put in. Those are the stones that are sitting in the middle of the street.
Okay, and you're gonna remove those?
Yeah, I'm gonna put them on top of the revetment.
Yeah. Because what concerns me is when, I mean, we used to have our boats, we used to be able to launch them right into the pond, and now that Chris has put this stone wall in, we don't
rocks
have
are breaking
access.
the
Wait,
wall.
one at a time. They have an opportunity to talk, you have an opportunity to talk.
I mean, we've had two, we had two rowboats at our house, we would, as kids and as young adults, bring them to the edge of the pond. There was sand there, a few stones, and launch them into the pond. We've got now a new wall that he has replaced, supposedly, that he's put there. So we have no access to be able to get any recreational, boats into the pond.
I have no problem.
But just, let me just go back and forth, okay?
I don't want to get it.
So Montvale goes straight down, right to the pond. And the folks on Montvale Ave can use that road to go to the pond. And is that still accessible, or?
These are the pictures from
There's grass and
June
rocks, so
shortly
you
after
can't get to
removed
it.
the grass.
Well, grass doesn't
Weeks
block
later,
access.
the
No,
stone
but
wall was not there.
these boulders do.
When we were
But I'm saying grass.
Right, right.
Are these new stones?
This is the way it was in 2012 when I bought the property. The stones you can't see because of the drag height. There was an existing revetment. You can see from the satellite pictures here, all the way around here.
Yeah.
There, I just added to it. I picked up some of the ones that had fallen over, pushed them up.
And you didn't have permission to do those?
Oh, if you look at this, look at the road. There's no rocks here.
That's why we filed the NY.
What they're saying, it's clear.
I was repairing the existing revetment.
So if you need to break in the revetment.
It prevents erosion. I mean, I can show you the pictures where the ocean comes into the yard.
This is from 2001. This is what happened in 2001. The road went right into the pond. That's how it was. The 60 years that we've owned the house.
Can we keep
Yeah,
this?
sure.
Frank, you want these?
Well, how does the loan work with?
I don't know, because it's a private road.
well-
I don't know.
I don't think that's, well, I don't know that, the issue would be whether the stones were moved correctly or if they should be there, in my mind.
Yes.
All right?
Right, I think we got involved because of disturbance in the lawn area and the cutting, but
Right.
if there were unpermitted activities prior to that, we weren't aware of them, and if it happened, we're learning about them now, so.
Well, can we,
It appears to be stones in the 1990s in that
Right.
areas, but
Yeah, it's hard to see, but there's stones in a lot of these pictures that go back prior.
right.
most of these rocks I couldn't possibly move. The ones that had toppled over, I picked back up,
So is there,
put onto the river, back onto the river, and then they'd fallen into the pond in some cases. And then I brought a few nice ones, granite pieces to put on top.
Did you originally put the revetment out there?
No, it was there when the house was built. To hold that, to prevent erosion.
So the person that, the developer that built the house put the revetment out there?
That's probably the previous house that
differently arranged?
The previous house washed off the foundation.
Do we have any trail of, or any permitting that reflects?
The original house was before permitting was
When I
required.
bought the house in 2012. All I did was pick up a few rocks that had fallen over and added some granite to it to prevent further erosion.
And you ladies say that
There was
The opening of the
something
wall
going
is
around
still
here
where
to
it
lay off his property, but somebody would, at some point, it probably went all the way around
I can
here.
move.
You can see that
Break its wall, so that moves.
right.
this is long.
It makes people happy. It's where it was before, but it makes people happy
Yeah,
to move
12,
it.
13.
Project one field to one and put it there and do it.
Yeah, right.
well, it sounds like, unless I'm mistaken, it sounds like the ladies would like it to be returned to the way it was, so they have the right to access the water, and it is a paper street, therefore it is a street that is...
the additional rocks that-
Hold on just a second, please. That is a shared street by the people that live on the street.
I guess, Lisa, what I would be concerned about is not so much the access, but the activity that was done and whether it was appropriate for this resource area. So, I mean, I'm looking at some pictures and I'm seeing sort of a random row of stones that goes around the pond, and then I see a more concentrated area of stones.
A lot of it's covered from growth.
Well,
And I can the pieces are distinguishable from the ones that were there. You can easily see the pieces that were brought in. Different in cut and color. I was just adding to an existing event. I didn't see that I was modifying or changing anything to prevent erosion. Existing.
Clearly, these were here, and that was
The town has been bringing fieldstone in to shore up the beach.
those were here.
The dune across the pond, yeah.
And still, when it breaches, this is an extra added layer of protection for the neighborhood, for our health.
I think throughout the town, there's old existing walls that served a purpose and maybe no longer work, and if you wanted to shore them up or create some kind of stormwater protection, you get an engineered plan, you come in and you get a permit. Like for the Musquashkett stone wall, the town had to get it engineered, had to come before us for a permit. So it's more that we can't have everybody just putting rocks down where they think they may go. I mean, if you have an engineer that says, well, you're gonna lose your yard and your foundation if you don't shore this up, then you would come to us and we could get a permit. But what was there a long time ago can stay. I think adding to it is what the issue is.
and not that it can't be done, but it, as Pat points out, it needs permission. Any thoughts, Pat?
Well, the other thing, Chris, is we, throughout the town, we have areas that were public access being blocked off by people, and we can't be part of, any part of permitting something that blocks off public access with something in our jurisdiction. So we're really cautious about, you know, what type of...
Breaking the wall is still where it was before.
Right, and...
As far as launching a boat, and I have no problem with anybody coming.
Right, and that's not under our jurisdiction, but we're careful that any type of engineered project or, you know, work that homeowners want to do, that it's done carefully so that we're not taking somebody else's rights away too, so.
Anybody got any thoughts?
And is there an engineering reason why these stones would serve a purpose for this area?
They hold back the embankment slightly. They're being put on top of a soil that's probably classified as muck. So, I mean, the soil's, erosive in the first place. So,
Probably be the best bet.
the existing stones are receding into the water, the existing stones are settling.
They were placed on top of the rock. Sticks up, it's a little more noticeable now.
So what I'm thinking, probably the best course of action from here, the planting plan, the drainage, all looks good, and maybe we can, that part of the project I don't have a problem with, I don't think anybody else does. We can get maybe 3 of us out to the site and really look at these rocks and see them and these concerns, and we'll deal with those separately and decide what should be done with that.
So we deal with what's in front of us now here, and then we go back and, so we have to condition this?
What attracted attention to this was we had a mini excavator and we were placing the rocks.
That usually does it.
Patrick saw the rocks, everybody
Yep.
came out.
Yep.
Well, the planting plan, is that going to precede anybody from walking through there as well? Is it, I mean, that's to your point, that,
Yeah, I mean, it was a lawn, and we were trying to get rid of the lawn and get some native plants, so there's a lot of grasses in Brad's planting
right,
plan.
but they're right in the right-of-way now. I mean, we have this problem with dune grass.
Right.
In other areas, people plant dune grass, and then do we want them walking on it to get to the beach?
Right.
So
Part of it
why
was
don't we move it
other
over?
brush that was cut. It was similar, there was invasives, but there were big plants.
Right.
Part of it. So some of that, and that's, if you go down to the end, it'll be on the left. So I don't think that's much of a change other than replacing something that was taken out.
So do we want to break this into 2 pieces or handle it as one? Paul's suggestion that a few members go out, take a look at the stones, see whether they're appropriate or whether something has to be done. Do we want to deal with that independently of the driveway and the drainage?
Yeah, I think it could be done either way. You could close and condition it upon some agreement over the rocks, or we could hold off on 2 weeks and take a visit out there and see if anything else needs to be
Well, I
done.
think we need to take a visit out there. When I was out there with you, Lisa, I think it was Bill, we were focusing on the cuttings, okay? I didn't even bother to look at the rocks. So I think we need to have another little field trip to look at the edge and the rocks and what
But I
we
don't think that precludes us from closing this.
No, I'm saying
yeah,
I'm
okay.
with
But
that.
just wait a minute,
Yeah.
maybe they don't want to do that because then they're going to have to file for something else.
Oh, that's right.
Can this be all dealt with under this one?
Bill, do you remember the rocks? And that was the
Yeah.
project we were working on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yep.
would think it would
And I
be.
told Patrick, I told exactly what I did with
Yeah, I mean, there was,
top of the existing revetment.
I mean, from what I could see, there was a wall that was there many moons ago. Was it augmented? Yes. Do we need to take a look at it? Probably. But, I mean, can we do,
Yeah, I mean, I think
Is there
the
a way
intent
to-
was to take care of everything under the notice. And
Right.
it just, the rock thing, we may have been looking at it as a replacement of the rocks that had fallen, putting them up,
So-
rather than new ones being brought in, and that's kind of come to our attention.
If we can continue this for 2 weeks, come back, if we can sort out some of these pieces, we can have a set of orders done, and then hopefully close and have the orders, but let's look at that last piece.
Okay.
And discuss it. If we close tonight, we can't discuss anything else, and you could wind up doing another filing for that rock
wanna
wall,
do
which I don't think you want to do. It's up to you.
So you do a field trip within the next 2 weeks,
Yep,
and we could have a draft order of conditions, hopefully.
yeah. I mean, you're not going to have an order until the next 2 weeks anyways.
yep.
Yeah. Because we want to wrap
Do you
this one up.
understand?
Yeah, I mean, because this part is, I mean, great. We've made great progress. I know it's been,
On the wall, and we discussed this on the site.
See, I wasn't part of that, so I didn't even bother to look down there.
yeah, we
and
didn't have
I'd like
Penny
to
there,
walk.
so it didn't count.
Well,
Yeah.
but I think Frank should take a walk
The
down
other
there.
side as to when you people will be going.
Well,
Ken, does Carol have contact information, or does Pat?
Yeah, it's a private way, but you're one of the private owners, so.
Okay. So we'll set that up.
Continue.
All right, have a
So I'm
motion.
going to continue Montville to, it's Montville, right?
Yep, 10
Yeah.
Montville.
10 Montville to September 16th at 7:40.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Town of Scituate. Can somebody tell the guys
I am
that
so tired.
high school?
Now we gotta, oh,
Well,
Can you say that? You can tell me.
we'll say,
All right.
just set it down.
Yeah, we'll see.
I need to go home and go to bed. I'm very tired tonight.
Get over it.
Okay, I'll try. I am. Oh, it's shiny this time. I can find it. That's moving up in grade. Oh, shut the door, please.
Good evening.
Hello.
So, where did we leave
Back
off?
again.
Where were we?
Back again.
So I know we received reports from the final reports. We can certainly go through any of that information and discuss anything else that the board or want to discuss.
Yeah, I think we
This is the school.
wanted to see what the planning board, what questions they had, what issues around stormwater. So I attended the stormwater piece of the meeting. I think Frank was there too.
I was
See what their
too.
issues
I
were.
stayed.
And I was too.
Wasn't I?
Everybody was there. And,
I could have sworn I was there.
yeah.
You went home before.
We had the review engineer, Josh Bowes, looking at our piece, which was the stormwater bylaw and the DEP stormwater regulations. Planning board had a few additional issues around water resource protection and then all the traffic and, that other stuff. So I think we pretty much had received all the information we were looking for related to stormwater, and that was the last piece for us. Wetlands are confirmed.
And they had modified the driveway areas that we had asked about.
And Peter Palmieri had 2 points, well, there were several points, and you addressed all of them. There were 2 things right at the end that I think that you wanted to explain what was left.
Sure. He was just looking for some clarification on the plantings proposed in the bioretention basins,
Yeah.
including some shrubs with the seed mix. So that will be captured in our final plan set. That's not a problem at all. And I'll make sure that the plans have been approved by Mass DEP. They have a letter or a table in the handbook, so we make sure that they're in line with those.
So we won't get a planting plan before we close?
We can condition that. I think it's back
That there
and
will
forth.
be one coming? Okay, that's all. It'll be in the...
Exactly, yeah,
Yeah,
final construction documents.
yeah.
There were other comments related to the Water Resource Protection District that you responded to the planning board, into the Water Resource Protection Committee.
That's right.
Where does that stand? Is that,
We had addressed a letter to Laura, the town planner, and addressing each comment point by point. We haven't
Right, and-
received any further comments from them.
No.
so if you have addressed them, and we were assuming they've accepted them, if there were any issues, they would get back to you.
Right, they might have come up last week, or...
Yeah, somebody was there from Water Resource that night, and we answered, that you answered her questions or issues that night, right? Yeah. Is that the only outstanding thing then?
Yeah, I think some of the planning board members understand the water resource protection requirements better than I do, but I know there was a discussion that night about it, so. There were slopes and there were different things that,
But I think that, my impression was the planning board was okay with it that night.
yeah, and Josh commented on TSS removal and the higher level that's required in this district. And distance to groundwater from the roof detention basins. Was that worked out with him?
I guess, so, I mean, we addressed the comments that were in the letter. We didn't have any open conversations besides that.
Yeah, I had that down, the TSS level of pollutants was addressed, so.
Did we get a agreement on an additional plantings at the, between the loop and the,
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll throw that in the orders. Yeah, they did.
Right, you can see the red dots are
additional,
the additional
okay.
plantings that are on the slope here.
And wasn't there an issue with that, the viewing platform and the size?
Well,
It
Now-
wasn't so much an issue, I think it was whether you had the money to do the
Right.
platform.
Right, there was a
Well, I'd
delay
call
due to
that an issue.
finances.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, well, now it's optional, right?
What we have in our base bid is everything except the square at the end.
Yeah.
So the square at the end is a bid alternate, that depending on how bids come in, could be afforded at bid time,
Okay.
or perhaps later.
Be like
in the
walking the
project,
plank.
Money available. But
Right.
there's definitely the piece leading out to the square is part of the base bid now.
But
So
it
we
needs
can
to be,
approve it up to the size.
yeah, it needs to be
Maximum size,
conditioned up to that size,
Yeah.
whether it gets,
Right.
Exactly, so
Yes.
if
So
they
if
can
they,
do
if they
it.
want to do it, then
Yeah.
it's already been approved.
they
Okay.
can. Yeah,
Right.
Okay.
There was a question about the material too, and we clarified that.
Yeah,
with
you had
porous
a
and-
yeah.
cross-section.
Exactly.
okay.
So those will be in our orders. In this double protection around the vernal pool will
That's
be,
right.
that will
We added
definitely
that.
be in the orders, okay?
We added that right after you made that
Yeah,
comment.
Nice.
otherwise I don't know.
Looks
I'm
good.
real happy.
Penny,
I'm,
Bill,
I'm
Good.
good.
yeah.
Lisa?
I think it looks good.
I think we should say we appreciate how much work went back
Yeah.
and forth between
Yeah.
Niche and, you know, her and Dora and Whittier, and in Merrill Engineering. A lot of things happened quickly on this, you know, responses back and forth, so it went very
Pleasure to
well.
work.
And working with the
Is-
planning board went well too.
Yeah, it was great.
Is there anybody in the audience that wants to speak to the high school, Scituate High School?
Middle school.
Middle school.
Middle
high
school, middle school, high school project? No, I think you're right. It worked well. We should try to do more of that.
Yeah, right. And post the meeting date correctly,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
We got a few other glitches. Do we have any reason not to close? Do you think there'll be any changes? That, I mean, if we close this, then we're
That's it.
done. And then, do you anticipate anything else coming back from the planning board or anything that would not?
The thing we were just mentioning is planning board has asked us to have, and I think that's shown in this
Yeah.
drawing, 3 lanes for the high school track, to expand that, or even, so there would be
So-
2 exit lanes.
Yeah,
So that is impervious, and so we would suggest that, as a condition, we see an updated stormwater.
Okay.
Right.
It's all outside of the 100, but it still comes
Well,
into
there's
stormwater.
wetlands on the
Okay,
other
yeah.
side.
it needs to be 125.
Yep,
For the
Yeah.
borough
for
pool.
the, yep.
Yeah.
Where is that?
It's right on that line, actually. I think the 125, it's not shown on this plan, but it cuts right along it.
Yeah,
And this area is actually pretty degraded in the existing condition. It's not paved, but it's not grass either.
I would suggest that's impervious, right?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So this is the far left side as you're going north, and would it take any of the wooded area, or is it just on
No,
the
no,
existing?
On that degraded area.
Okay.
right now,
Shoulder
it's
that's
all
parked on.
yeah,
Inside the pool.
We put that into the conditions.
yeah, that can go in.
What do you think?
Yeah, and there may be minor changes when we go forward with the planning board, there may be some things, but I think if we've got stormwater covered, we could, if it's more significant, we could request a revised plan. If it isn't, we could get it on the as-built. I mean,
Well,
as long as we're notified.
I mean, we either close it, we could continue it, develop our orders. When will the planning board be wrapping their,
We're not scheduled to meet with them until the 24th of September, which is getting late into our,
right?
we want to incorporate as much of this into our bid documents.
But I mean, I think it'd be safe to put in everything that we have here. I would just hate to see something, we close it out, and then there has to be a change. Oftentimes, we encourage people not to close the process, but we'll certainly get our orders all together. You can give us that. We could continue, what's our next meeting?
16th.
And we could continue to the 16th.
And have conditions
And we
ready.
could have conditions ready. If something looks like it's really gonna change, we could always continue it again, not that you want to, but I think it's better than having it closed and then having to reopen. I don't see anything really big happening here, but
And you haven't lost any time because we wouldn't have the conditions
Yeah.
till the next
We
meeting
don't
anyway.
anticipate anything coming.
we're not gonna throw you a curve.
Thank you.
And that'll give us time to check with planning board if there's anything that they want to let us know before the 16th that we could include
I
in
don't think we
there.
want to be too tortured, but,
Yeah.
all right.
I mean,
I think we're,
I would just speak to the stormwater from this driveway change. It's a sliver really along the outside. I don't expect that the stormwater calculations are going to change because it doesn't really change the cover.
Mm-hmm,
So
Right.
It's only a minor change, but we do just ask about
sure,
comments from
Right.
planning, that is
Right.
something they would like for traffic.
Right, it's more traffic.
right. It's just like in case of the Board of Health and things like that, we typically don't close until they're done. That way, if they were to come back, say something wouldn't work properly or whatever, once we're closed, we can't take any, then we have to try to either amend the orders or how do we deal with it? And I wouldn't look at it as a setback other than, you know, maybe we'll just have everything lined up and you don't have to, one of you can come if you want to. I don't know, what do you think, Pat?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay? But does that seem reasonable?
we will have the orders ready for the next meeting.
Yeah, we could send you some draft ones before.
I think that might be a real good idea, okay?
Yeah.
All right?
All right. And again, as Pat said, it's been, seems like we appreciate early on the discussions we had, which helped get to this point, so, good.
Appreciate everyone used to work with us too, thank you for that.
I make a motion that we continue the middle school to September 16th. Do you want to take them first?
Sure.
Oh, because you have to come for the public safety anyways on the 16th.
I'm going to be here.
So I'm going to do it at 6:30. At the same time, we'll let you know if we, okay?
All right, how's that?
Somebody want to second that?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
But we're happy.
Is it Amari? I did that wrong last time. Amari.
No, it doesn't need to be.
Oh,
That's three. No, not in all cases. But we've been pretty upfront about that.
Okay.
We did it maximum.
It came from the outside, so I'm just giving you a heads up.
Okay.
So in case it comes up. Yeah.
So it's hard for us to.
Yeah, that's right down the street.
Thank you so much. I'll be in touch.
Okay.
Did you read the,
Yeah.
We were waiting
You went
for
out there, right?
something. Right?
Well, we got trees clearing in the front, I think, right?
So I, yep.
Take a minute to read
Do you
through.
want this letter read?
Definitely didn't close, we continued, yeah. So it can be included or read, up to you. The other stuff comes in.
So we're continuing, 135 Old Oak and Bucket Road. It's a new build. We have a plan that we just want to take a minute and take a look at. We did get an additional letter from Alan Greenberg at 122 Old Oak and Bucket Road. He couldn't make the meeting tonight. He has concerns relative to the buffer strip, the vegetations and planting on that.
This one is July
29 August
24th.
is the latest revision I have.
This one we got on the
That's the same one, August
29
29th.
August, yeah.
Yep. So where's his concern on the buffer strip?
So there was clearing on this site before it's been approved?
Before we
I contacted Grady Engineering, the property owner. There was cutting and grubbing, and as I explained, that can't take place before the permit is issued. So, and part of the problem with that is that we hadn't really looked fully into the stormwater regulations, whether they were triggered, and without tree cover, it's kind of hard to figure out what was there and whether stormwater bylaw would have been triggered by the amount of trees being removed. So,
I'm sorry, I was told I didn't need a permit, that's why I didn't think.
yeah, when you're going through the hearing process, you really wait till everything's in place before you do any cutting and grubbing, so.
Is there siltation up?
Actually, not.
There wasn't.
I don't believe so, no.
And you hadn't had any we haven't even closed, so there's
Right.
no orders.
Right.
Yeah, you jumped the gun.
Right.
I'm sorry, I've done this before in another town, and it wasn't an issue.
So I'd say, at a minimum, that silk sock ought to get installed right away, before you have any storm events or anything that you'd wind up with any siltation going towards the bog.
Right, when Darren was here last time too, the calculation for tree disturbance was just under what would have triggered the stormwater bylaw. So we really wanted to check on that to make sure that it really was under, because if it was over, it would be another layer of public review. So, I mean, I think I was gonna be asking Grady at this point to show how they arrived at the figure they gave us. It was 1,400 square feet, 14,000,
I
whatever.
guess my point with the siltation is now that the site's disturbed,
Right.
there ought to be a silt sock down immediately.
Right,
I mean, we would have required that thing to be there before they started the work.
right. There's also an area of tree cover to the far east, northeast of the lot that we assume was going to remain in place, and it looks like some of that's been cut too, up along Old Oak and Bucket. And it showed as existing and remaining tree cover. It's right up to the 50-foot buffer.
I didn't go out there.
Pat, can I just clarify this? So the tree cutting that has been done already, was that in the area that we were originally going to permit? So what has been done, had the permit been issued, would it have been in that scope?
Yes, most of it'd be in the location of the proposed dwelling and the septic.
Okay.
But we don't know if the stormwater bylaw would have been triggered if those trees were in place and we were able to check them out.
Okay.
Okay. And then there's the trees to the east of that were to remain, but now appear to have been cut.
Excuse me.
Sure.
There were no trees cut in that area. There was just some brush that I asked them to clear out. That's all. There were no trees were cut down. Check it out if you want.
Yeah, or brush within
I
50 to
brush,
100, right. Within 50 and 100, that's under our jurisdiction too. So,
And it's considered habitat.
Penny, do you want to start?
I just wish nothing had happened. I understand you didn't realize, but now I'm totally confused what we wanted them. I see the plantings. That all looks good. I'm trying to go back to the stormwater thing. Bill?
Well, I'm still don't understand what happened to the east. So if the majority of what was done was going to be permitted, what was done that wasn't going to be permitted, other than the stormwater calculation?
well, I guess it's mostly brush up to the east in that east corner up there, but it does hold soil in place.
Yep.
It does provide habitat. It does provide screening from the road.
So was that clearing done as a necessity for the site? I mean, can we replant that and have it come back? I mean, can that be repaired?
Right now, we don't actually, this is the first I learned of the activity taking place on the site. What we can do is we can stake the proposed erosion control. That'll give you some guidance as far as where to get that erosion control installed as soon as possible. At that point, I think it would be fair to include a condition that any trees removed outside of that erosion control, if the applicant doesn't believe there were any trees removed outside there, would need to be replaced, or a planting plan submitted to the commission.
Yeah, that's close, but I think in that statement, which is getting close to what I was thinking about, is to include brush or whatever it was, shrubs or whatever. It wasn't trees, then it was brush or shrubs or whatever. Then we kind of expand that definition.
I think the intent wasn't for it to be a lawn. I mean,
Right.
it's the plan we received, it's a tree line, it's a brush line, whatever.
I think once we stake that, we'd be able to see pretty quickly whether any activity took place outside of the intended limit of work. And if that's the case, then some sort of restoration can be proposed.
So let's go out, stake it, and take a look. It's a good
Paul?
idea.
Yeah, no, I like that plan, and you could, basically, I see this planting plan, which looks good, and then when you get the silt sock in, we can go and look and see if there's additional plantings that need to be done to replace things that were cut.
We did want to pose one question to the commission. We felt that the erosion control was appropriate uphill of the proposed plantings, since the plantings are going into a fairly open area. So we just wanted to make sure the commission was in agreement with that, as opposed to putting erosion control behind or downhill of the proposed plantings.
Well, I guess my concern,
It makes a nice limit of work where it's shown on the plan.
Right.
I don't think we're going to really get any erosion problems from the plants that are being installed.
my concern would be if they did some work beyond that. Now, if there's some disturbed area that's on the other side of that silt sock, you're either gonna have to put down some secondary silt sock, or you move the silt sock out to the area that's disturbed and then use like a silt fence or some other measure to define the limit of work.
I agree, and that's something we can meet with Pat and work out in the field too on an inspection.
What do you think, Pat? I mean, we don't want them beyond,
Right.
the limit of work ought to be that silt sock except for the plantings of those trees.
Yeah.
But if they've already disturbed it, we want to make sure that we don't get,
Yeah, there's more trees as you get closer to Old Oak and Bucket. Out by the service road for the bog, there was less tree cover, it was more just gravelly soils.
Right, but if this disturbed earth, we want to make sure that it's within
Yeah.
the siltation
Right.
area.
Right,
But I think we also want to have a limit of work area.
right.
And if they're not the same, then we need to define that, whether it's by stakes or a small fence or something, silt fence, whatever.
While we're on site staking that too, we can very easily locate any limits of work that took place and get that onto the plan as well.
Okay.
One other thing that came up, and this came up from the cranberry growers, of what kind of vegetation may cause issues for the cranberry crop. We received something, it was an email or a letter about blueberry bushes near cranberry bogs, and I don't know if there's somebody that put something in writing in that we could look at. I mean, we don't want to cause...
Yeah, I didn't
Any
see
ideas,
that one.
any ideas on that?
Absolutely non-invasive plants, no blueberries, raspberries, anything like that. Ocean spray, mayday, cran raspberry, and cran blueberry, but
But the
They
cranberries.
don't grow together.
they don't want them growing in the same.
This is the former owner of the
Yes,
piece of
I didn't see
property.
you over there. Yes, Gavin, how you doing?
Mrs. Mooney, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, it may be that we could talk about plantings, maybe
Who
there's...
came up with this planting plan?
I believe it was a combination of our office, the applicant, and I did see something from the landscape company in here as well.
Do you understand what they're saying?
Honestly, I'm the one who asked them to do blueberries, because
We said,
Well,
you mentioned blueberries.
I don't know anything about cranberry
Right, we always
growing,
ask.
I'm sorry.
Right,
This-
I'll plant whatever you want.
Yeah.
I don't care if blueberries or cranberries.
you're saying blueberries are not good next to the bog?
The birds eat them, and then you know what the birds do in the bog.
Ah,
And raspberries, the same thing, they.
ah.
So do you actually wind up with small blueberry bushes growing in the bog?
We have to weed out raspberry bushes and blueberries from the bog.
Huh?
Are cranberries acid, do they like acid, acidic soil? Are cranberries like acidic soil?
It's sand.
Okay. Okay, so would it be better to plant something that's an acid-loving plant or an alkaline?
They just don't want anything with seeds.
No seeds and berries, yeah.
You don't do berries.
Okay.
Popcorn. No
No,
popcorn.
I just
I just said
heard
it
them
because
say
somebody said
it.
blueberries.
No, I heard them say it, and that's why
Yeah,
I
well, we probably did. Had no
It's
idea.
interesting.
Right before
Right.
Pat mentioned that, that's the first time we...
Yeah, before I get the email, that was the first I learned of it, too.
All right, so the plantings have to be
Berryless.
friendly
We'll come up with some.
cranberry
Yeah.
bogs.
I think we all learned something new.
Yeah.
For ground cover, is that in your?
No, we want to have
No, we
bushes or
want
have
bushes.
some kind of habitat for
the critters.
birds, that kind of thing.
Because there's never been anything, it's always been a grass lawn there. There's never been anything there. That between, where you're telling me to put in something, we've been mowing it for years. So there's
Right,
never-
but the rest of the area was all wide open as well. Now there's going to be a disturbed area with a home, so we'd like to see some vegetation. So I don't know whether Ocean Spray's got some guidelines or if you don't mind, or you've got some,
There's an access road
right.
there too, so it would have to be towards over.
It's between the access road and their home. If Mrs. Mooney or somebody else can give us a little bit of guideline on that, obviously it's just going to impact you.
Have my husband check the motions.
Okay,
I'm sure it's not the first time it's come up.
okay, we'll find.
And we did intentionally keep all of the proposed plantings outside of the easement that's associated with that access drive, so we did keep everything outside of
Bless
the
you.
easement.
Maybe you can have a small Christmas tree farm.
Whatever you guys want.
Low. Well, you want them low. You want to keep the views, so I'm sure you want to keep them low. All right.
Everybody happy.
So we're just gonna.
Lisa,
push
you
this.
didn't get a chance to comment.
I don't have one now.
Wow. Take that and run with it.
Yeah,
So we're gonna go out, check on erosion controls, get a new possible planting plan, see if there needs to be some replenishment of the bushes. And also, I would like to see how the numbers were calculated for staying under the stormwater bylaw limit.
okay.
So, I mean, that came in, there was a number attached, I just want to see how that was calculated.
Okay. Is there anybody in the audience that wants to speak to this? We will enter Mr. Greenberg's letter into the folder. So what's your recommendation, Pat?
Just,
Want to continue this and,
Have we closed to anything?
yeah, and whoever wants to come out, we do a visit out there.
Yeah.
so
What he said, I'm sorry,
continue this to the next meeting?
9/16, getting full. 9/16, completing 135 Old Open Bucket for $7.45.
Don't we have a 7:40?
No, I'm going back because we've got a break here between
All right.
7 and 7.
Second. on
All in
September.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Maybe this.
But get that silt fence going.
And
No more clearing yet.
we're on hold. Right.
Downing,
Yeah.
102 River Street, septic repair.
Can we close something? Anything tonight?
I don't know. On September 2nd, 2015, at 7:15 PM, the Town Hall Situate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Situate Code of Bylaws regarding the application of Susan Downing to repair a septic system on property located at 102 River Street, Hummerock. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Good evening.
Hi, good evening. Hi, my name is Rick Savant. I'm Dr. Taylor. Instead, we have a property out here on the corner of River Street, Irving Street, and southerly end of Mark.
Excuse me, do we have the butter cards?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes. Basically, we've got an existing home there that they need to upgrade their septic system. The project is located in a flood zone, it's an 80-year that's really, and we're also located on Perry Beach in that area. We're just out of a 200-foot outer riparian zone to the South River. We had a board health meeting Monday night where the system was designed to prove.
Kenny?
So it's going to be a new cesspool or?
No, tank and a leaching.
Yes, the new septic tank and leaching.
Okay, so there's two existing cesspools?
It's a tank.
Yes,
Here's the leaching area.
all right, but these will be filled,
Those will be abandoned in accordance with that.
Yep. Okay. It just confused me, I wasn't used to seeing two.
Doesn't take much, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I'm all set, thank you.
Bill?
Improvement.
Paul? No questions. Lisa?
All good. My feelings.
Pat?
Yep, it's replacing a cesspool, and it's in the AE zone, so it,
All the erosion control.
Yep.
Anybody in the audience want to speak to that?
Easy one.
We close this?
Oh, my
we're
good lord.
closing. I make a
First.
motion to close.
You're a lucky
Hold on,
guy.
what?
I could use one for evening.
Do you have a DEP number?
not yet. On this.
I don't think so.
Tell you what, we'll have the orders and, at the next meeting.
We've got to close something.
Got a DEP number, I don't even think you need to be here, so you can. All right. We were that close.
Oh, so we're gonna continue it. Oh, boy. 7:40.
Well, those guys all on vacation at DEP right now? or-
7:45
Tiring.
on the 16th,
Second.
102 River.
All in favor?
Aye.
They say close but no cigar.
DEP.
Yes, I tried. Enough to lack direction.
DEP number.
I would need consent for that, right?
No, that's all we need.
Just your certificate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is it Ingalls? I'm not gonna be there. 32R Brunswick Street, raise and rebuild. On September 2nd, 2015, the 7:25 PM Town Hall of Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws regarding Michael Ingalls to raise and rebuild a dwelling on property located at 32R Brunswick Street, Hummerock. Butters and other interested parties are invited to attend.
Have the cards, Rick?
I do. We actually emailed them over today as well.
Oh, okay.
You don't have an extra plan over there, do you?
Here's a plan.
Yeah, we'll take this one.
Just steal.
It's called 32
Yeah.
Brunswick Way. Street.
Yep.
All right, thank you, Rick Brady from Brady Consulting. The
Brunswick
applicant,
Street,
Mike Inglis.
Inglis, sorry.
This property located at 32R Brunswick Street. We've got the plan set up with the existing conditions on the left side, showing the existing dwelling, deck, and septic system. Mr. Inglis would like to raise or tear down the existing dwelling and construct a new dwelling. The property is located in flood zone AO with a depth of 2 feet. So he would like to construct a new dwelling on piers elevated up out of the flood zone, as well as put on a covered porch on the front right-hand corner, steps down to grade. Proposed deck off the rear right corner, also with steps down to grade, and connect the proposed home into the existing septic system, which was constructed a few years ago. That would be glad to answer any questions you may have.
It's basically
What?
the same footprint except for the porch, the covered porches.
It's pretty close. It might be 1.5 feet or so wider than the existing. The proposed front of the house is 22.0 feet. The existing is a little bit over 20, 20.5 feet. So it is pretty close.
But it's really close.
Yeah. Closer than a lot of them that we look at.
Bill?
Well, it's a little bit bigger. It's less footprint in the front on Brunswick
Is the figure
Street.
going closer
It's a little
to
jump out.
our jurisdiction or away?
Well, the whole thing is our jurisdiction.
Oh, yeah, right, because it's all in the,
It's a barrier beach,
Yeah.
but it's not gonna materially,
Okay.
it's gonna be better, it's gonna be lifted, it's on
deck's a
cedar
little
posts now,
smaller.
I think.
yeah, and we got the right footings and foundations and all that.
Do we have a foundation plan?
There's no,
He did have one prepared by Rivermore Engineering.
Okay. What is it? You don't,
The details would be on the second sheet. He's proposing concrete piers. Oh, sorry, just construction.
okay. Paul?
Any questions?
Any issues? Thoughts?
White concrete piers over that pond. Just curiosity.
Just probably because they prefer them, that's what they proposed.
Okay, well, there's my answer.
Did anybody read Pat's email on concrete piers?
Yes, that's why I asked the question.
Well, they're talking seawalls and everything with concrete.
Yeah.
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 Anybody in the audience? Pat, any recommendations?
It looks like the, no changes to the septic. Septic's working, it doesn't need, and is that shed's not gonna be part of the project, the back left?
That would stay.
That's gonna stay? Okay.
Different driveway or anything, or?
It's the existing gravel.
Okay.
Stay just like that.
Okay.
It's sort of dashed in the middle of the property there.
I see it.
It's existing gravel / sand drive.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a lot of beach grass on the property. Whatever you're doing, if you could replace beach grass, because that's really the great cover out there, you know, for the sand and everything.
This whole half is covered with
Yeah.
seagrass.
Yeah, it is. The only other thing, in the permit application, on page 2, it's checked off as a buffer-only area, and sometimes with DEP, they'll look at it and say, well, no, wait a minute, this isn't a resource area, so they want that checked. And then On page 4, they'll also want to know the land subject to coastal storm flowage, that's the amount of area that's disturbed. And then when you check Barrier Beach, if you're in an area behind a seawall, whether it's a coastal beach or a coastal dune, you know, sometimes there's a question, but you should put some kind of square footage in that. I mean, in the end, you're going to be pulling it out of the resource area and elevating, but I think more of the land subject coastal storm flowage, the footprint size, because you're going to be digging up foundation and stuff. So. Have you shown this to the building department at all, the structural stuff? To Neil? Okay. Because then he asks us to sign off. Yeah, he'll send it to us for a sign off, but he'll, you know, tell you what you need to do. So.
Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak to this? And you have a DEP number?
I don't have one yet. I don't know if one came in.
I haven't seen one yet, unfortunately.
You're gonna have to go.
Well, we can continue. We
Yeah.
could have orders. You don't even really need to
I mean,
be here.
we're set to
Wow,
close.
this,
We just need the
16.
number. I make a motion that we continue for a DP number, 32R Brunswick to September 16th at 7:50.
we're not into the 17th yet.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
If they have
Aye.
comments on their letter where they assign a number, we could let you know. Otherwise, you don't even have to come. You know, they may just say, here's your number.
I'll give them a call tomorrow to see if they can push it along.
Yeah, they short-staffed. This happened all night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Great, thank you.
They should all be back to work next week.
Is it Vocella? How do I say this? Vocella? 31 Lowell Street.
They want to do the same thing.
On September 2nd, 7:35 PM, the Town Hall, Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 4 of the Mass General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws regarding Stanley and Lynn Vocella to raise and rebuild a dwelling on property located at 31 Lowell Street, Humrock. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend.
This is quite a bit bigger. Yeah, it's quite a bit bigger. The house is here, yeah.
Just the-
Frank. And we need, islands. It's bigger than this original.
Okay. Fire up.
Okay, thank you, Rick Grady from Grady Consulting. The applicant, Mr. Bozella, to my right here. Similar to the last application, the applicant is proposing to raise an existing home and elevate it above the flood zone. There are 2 flood zones on the property. It is adjacent to the seawall on Lowell Street. Behind the seawall, and then a AO depth 2 feet inland of that elevation 19. So the applicant is proposing to construct a new home on wood piles. The top of the pile elevation is proposed at elevation 20, a foot above the velocity zone near the seawall. There are a series of decks as well wrapping around the back part of the house with steps to get back down to existing grade, which is roughly around elevation 12. For this application, he is proposing the construction of a new septic system as well. We're showing a 1,500-gallon septic tank, distribution box, and 2 crushed stone leaching trenches with a vent as well. And with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have.
This house is kind of in the same footprint, but it is bigger definitely than last one was just a smidgy bigger. This is, so
Do you have
you,
any idea how much bigger, Rick?
It's roughly 6 feet bigger on each edge. It is a 10 scale. Yeah, it's about 6 feet larger on each end than it is currently.
What does that
So you're
mean?
putting new pilings in?
Yes, yeah,
All new?
on the violence, yeah.
So is that 12 square
The
feet?
existing. They're painting the existing homes on a foundation, not on piles.
Okay.
This deck, just, I don't mean to jump,
No.
but this is showing that piles driven right next to the existing seawall. Is that a private seawall or public? Do you know what that?
Ooh, it's a seawall.
It's complicated.
A,
The seawall was built by the Army Corps.
I mean, we've been looking to get these decks pushed back from the seawall if they have to do work there. This looks like it's right at it. Would be above it, but if they ever go to repair that wall or do work to the wall,
Your deck's in the way.
These walls are buried. It's not like the walls down here.
Okay.
It's all, people walk on it. It's almost like a footpath.
yeah, we don't have squat elevations, but we do have contours showing the 12 contour just on the high side of the wall and a 10 contour a good 20 feet off of the wall.
do you know how high the wall is?
It's probably a foot or so, 18 inches at the most. Between the
Oh, it's really there.
Grade, yeah, how much higher is the wall than the,
beach,
yeah,
about 6 feet.
on the beach side?
Yeah.
Oh, it's that high?
Yeah, that's where everything goes from the north to the south.
But on the inside,
About 4 feet maybe.
Frank, I think you're right. The DPW is asking that for any future wall repairs that we get grants for, they want, 10 feet on either side. But I think that probably gets addressed when Neil looks at the plans and building. I don't know if DPW comments on any of the elevations, but
Right, we haven't done that yet in Hummerock. Like, people have been, the big concern was they were making people raise them so the water that goes over the wall could flow under the house.
yeah.
And this deck will be above the wall, so it still can flow below the house.
Bill, I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, I have a quick question, more general question than anything else. In terms of the floodplain, are you going by the new numbers that FEMA put out, or waiting for the revised numbers, or?
We're going by the July 12th maps.
Okay.
Which show it as elevation 19.
Okay. So we're upgrading the sewer system, we're getting the foundation out of the way, so those are two big pluses. I'm good.
It's good.
Lisa?
Good.
Pat?
Yeah. Do we have structural plans
We
at this point?
Oh, okay. Okay. So I guess the structural is coming through the Campbell Smith office. We do architecturals, and I believe the structural is part of their plan set.
And you have them?
I have this one sheet in my folder here.
Doesn't really show you much. Do you have a DEP number for this? All right, so I think we need probably a little bit more information on the foundation. And I think that you want to at least talk to the DPW about that proximity to the seawall.
Okay.
The other thing they requested is that they hold off on the perk test for the septic until the house is raised or And I think that's okay. We could do something pending. They can't get at it to test.
Oh, well, do we have BOH sign off yet?
No.
Oh.
Yeah.
How are they gonna, how's the Board of Health gonna sign off if they haven't done?
Can't get it to
perk
perk.
Right, they were talking about it, the time of construction. I think that was in the notice.
yet? You want this back until,
Yes, please.
how's that gonna work?
I know, that was a request in the notice, that they hold off on perk test until...
So our orders,
gonna be in the
I guess
lower-
our orders would be subject to an approved septic plan.
Right, because the
Right, that-
foundation is in the way now, so...
Yeah.
Proof septic plan.
Yeah, but the septic's not gonna happen for a while. We're actually gonna close and issue a set of orders without a septic system being approved. That's typically not
Gotcha.
what we do.
Yep.
We're assuming that it's all pretty much the same down there, and it's gonna be sand and they'll build the same system.
Gotcha.
I guess their peril would be if they couldn't, but it's unlikely.
We do have one test hole in the front left-hand corner of the property. It is sand and gravel.
Yeah.
We've done a number of systems on all sides of this.
Doesn't change much in Humrock.
And the only other thing too, Rick, is on page 2, it's checked off as buffer zone only. And then page 4, land subject coastal storm flowage should be added.
Okay. So
I make a
is
motion,
there anybody in the audience that interested? No.
I make a motion to continue 31 Lowell Street.
Is there anything else we want them to look
So,
into?
I mean, do you want to have a look at the structurals at the next meeting then?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
We'll look at that.
See what DPW says.
Yeah. Okay.
And we should be able
Do you want them to check in with DPW, or what do you want to do?
You know, I can ask them, and that's no problem.
Pat's pretty busy. You might want to double check with them to see how that's going.
Yeah, it's a lot more of an issue up by Turner and Oceanside, Surfside.
I make a motion to continue 31 Lowell Street to September 16th at 7:55.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to be stepping out for
Can I come with you?
this
No.
one,
I want to leave.
Nope.
the certificate of compliance. So Pat, do we want to cover any ground with anything else?
2 or 3 quick ones.
Yeah, can we just do that? Yeah, if you don't mind. Can we just, I want to touch on that Appleton Field. What do you have?
Let's have 3 or 4 Flat Road, 1 minute.
Okay.
Village of South River, 1 minute.
All right, well, why don't you do
Quick.
yours? Sure.
Actually, if you want to leave,
Well,
that might take...
well, we can do them.
First and last.
This.
Okay.
You know, I haven't seen in a while is that lawyer from here. The good-looking one, the skinny one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen him in a long time.
Stuff is all needs to go to.
Good guy, I like him. Yeah, he's probably on his house in Nantucket.
I'm sorry about this.
Yeah, because he asked me to do that.
This is all got to go to
trust
Carol.
thing and
You ever heard any?
nothing.
These are photos.
I got all the stuff in boxes.
There's a whole bunch of
I'll help
stuff
him out
in
any way
here
I can,
that
but-
you should just get back to Carol. She's got to sort them out. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
a copy of this plan.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, we're just going to do a couple of bookkeeping things, and then I have to recluse myself, so I'm going to leave.
Yeah.
So we're going to finish those first.
Okay, 304 Clap Road, the property owner is going to establish an escrow account. John Zimmer had flagged the wetlands. He's going to come up with a planting plan, and I told him we'd go out and walk it. It's, back corner's all knotweed, but he thinks he can come up with something to replace the area the guy disturbed.
I mean, it was a lot of grass and things there before, and then
A
it
lot
had
of
grown
trees
up
were
over
cut,
the years.
yeah.
But they did do a lot of clearing, so.
Yeah, yep.
Okay.
So he hasn't set up the escrow account yet, so I've talked to him about contacting Carol and setting that up. So I think we settled on 5,000 to see if that would do it.
5,000 in an escrow to
Yeah.
to revegetate?
And to pay John Zimmer.
Okay.
The Village at South River, this is the request for a certificate of compliance, and it's gone between zoning, planning, us, harbor master. We're strictly going to be looking at stormwater from the, comparing the original order with what is out there now with the as-built. We've got some money that's being held in the building department. We're going to have it switched to conservation, and we're going to hire Pat Brennan to do a review of, I think it's Grady Engineering's as-built. So we'll start that this week. We talked to Mr. Solomando. There's other things going on with this site, but they're related to Chapter 91. So the harbor master or Tricia, somebody's going to be contacting DEP about that.
Okay.
And then 250 First Parish Road, we visited this site. It was they've come in for a certificate of compliance. It was an area of trees that was going to be removed, then there was going to be a meadow planting plan. The trees weren't removed, so the meadow wasn't planted. So we're trying to look at what would be comparable to, you know, what was approved and what was not done. There's an area where all the lobster pots were stored, and if they can be removed and a planting plan in there, I think we need to give types of plants and dimensions of the planting area.
Right. It's just a small jump in the backyard.
Yeah, parallel with the shed that's out there.
Do you agree? That's what we discussed.
Yeah, when we were out there.
Yep. Nothing to the left of the backyard then?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think just in that area where it juts in,
Okay.
we'll sort of straighten that out.
So like 10 by 20, is
Yeah.
that what it'll look like?
Yep.
Okay. And then we'll issue the certificate and make that a condition. Should we hold escrow on that, or?
I don't think so.
They're closing this week.
Oh, then maybe you want to put something,
Yeah. Okay.
a couple $1,000 or something.
Okay. All right. So we need to vote on that one.
Why, for a CSC?
Yeah.
Oh, conditioned. I make a motion that we issue a CSC with those conditions to bring
250.
the plans up to where we're satisfied.
Okay.
All right?
Second?
All right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
And I think that's it for Frank. Before you go, there's some things to sign. There'd be...
I can scoot in tomorrow.
Okay.
We do have a letter from the tenant farmer at Appleton Field. Because we lost the access to that field until we build the new road. Just for anybody that's not familiar with it, we agreed when we bought the Crosby property that we would build a new access road, and between storm delays, issues with the town, that sort of thing, it didn't get built. The extension that we had with the owner for our farmer to use that road expired, and he closed the road. So now he's got some equipment, fencing, things like that on the farm. He's looking to end his lease, and he wants to either be able to get access to pull all his stuff out, or he wants to be reimbursed for it. I think you and I need to go over this letter.
Okay.
And my personal feeling is that maybe we should offer him another year. You know, he had more time to use the field. We license it for a 3-year period.
His license would be up this January.
January, right.
And I had tried to reach him a couple of times, and he didn't contact me. But I was thinking that, you know, if he lost this year, we could just give him another year to do that, and hopefully the access will be in. Maybe you and I can talk to him about that. I did walk in, the owner of the property out front asked that nobody use it, so I hiked around. He didn't plant this spring, so he doesn't have any crop loss or anything like that.
Would he prefer to keep it? I mean...
I don't know. I have...
Access is gonna be the big issue, right?
Well, hopefully by next year, that'll be completed.
We have an area, we just haven't got the cutting...
We need to push DPW for the review of that road. I mean, they've had that plan for a couple of months, and they haven't responded to whether we can put that out to bid. So we need to go at that front, and then possibly we can reach Mr. Buca. You and I can talk to him about it, and see if he wants to do something, and then it'll be back to the commission members. I don't know if anybody has any thoughts on that, but right now, I know that there's interest from other farmers
Yep.
that would like to use that field.
And the school, yep.
Well, so we'll have to
Yep.
talk about that, but if he's interested in prolonging that, I think in fairness, where he didn't get that season, that we could continue his or extend it for another year.
Okay.
So maybe you and I can have that talk with him to start with.
Okay.
All right? I can't think of anything else.
We have a CPC meeting on Monday or Tuesday, if there's anything that people need to let Penny know about.
I'm not going to be here for the meeting. I've already let them know.
Oh, okay.
It's going to be more of a project update meeting. We're not getting anything. And Frank, I think they need some updates on some of your projects.
Okay.
Frank, I can go if you wanted to take the night off and
No,
give
it's
me
not this
whatever
Monday,
you
it's
needed
the
me to bring to
14th.
them.
It's not
It's
next Monday, it's the
14th.
following Monday.
14th, okay?
CPC is the 14th, yeah, because I'll be
Monday's
back the
Labor
next
Day.
night.
Okay.
Yeah. Yahoo. Sure you want to stay?
Let me go check on my dad. Back to him.
Yeah, how's he doing?
On your what? Oh, that's weird. We gotta
Okay?
talk. I just
Have a nice night, Frank.
All right, see you, Frank.
Okay, so I think we're gonna have Paul Parrish as acting chair for remaining issues on the agenda for tonight. We have two different issues we'll be talking about with a lot of the same players, and one is a request for a partial certificate of compliance on Studley Farm stormwater under the order of conditions, and the other is Lot 9 on Studley Farm. It's an RDA proposed for a house lot. I don't know which order it makes sense to take these. Any suggestions of how we should go about this? We could start with the partial request for the certificate of compliance. There's a lot of new information, and then there's
a lot of
different information.
I actually just had a very brief conversation with Jeff, and he was talking with Frank briefly. We got a consideration of him stepping out. We should hold off on starting the RDA conversation right now until he has a chance to come back.
Okay.
But I don't know if you want to take maybe a 2-minute break, and then we'll be with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Pat, could I talk to you on 305 Clap Road? You just talked about...
Oh, yes.
That yard to the stone wall, that used to be grass. The guy that this guy bought it from, the vegetation was up to He just let everything go. And this is one of the very few that I feel bad. I think the guy who bought it, he thought he could have a yard. Because there used to be grass there. And because the guy didn't take care of the place, everything grew in, but it was a yard. It's almost like it's grandfathered in. I understand that, but when I was a kid, it was a yard back then.
So we all introduced each other around the table.
I really,
Okay, here you go,
that's
Thursday.
one thing I would feel bad about.
Great, Thomas, 4 to 8 in Canton.
That's what I'm saying, so I think the
D.O.
poor guy thinks he's got a yard.
I think the realtor told him. It is a happy medium.
Because I'm telling you.
Because there's a garage, you have a barn or something.
The reason, I just, cuckoo, yeah, stop it. Lisa. Back to the stone wall used to be a grass.
We can go on.
No.
Okay. We can go on with John Zimmer and just see what makes sense.
Oh, you talking about Jericho?
I'm going the 8th.
You back to 16?
I'll be back for the next meeting. Yeah, no, I'll be here.
But we need to talk about that, because if you need me for the public,
You're on the
16, yeah.
But I'll be home.
I have to take a look.
Yeah. Rich will be back.
Yeah, so maybe we're good. So, a lot of backlash on this. I mean, we can't.
Paul, wait for me.
I'm gonna go to the bathroom. I don't want to close anything tonight. Can you say that?
I'm gonna go
Only
too.
one of us here, so you're not.
That way this will be over quickly, right? I'll go, we'll be here all night.
But I thought the point was that it hasn't been built the way it should. It's not doing what it's supposed to be doing. But were the calculations wrong? I mean, is it doing what it's supposed to be doing for the most part? Oh. Is for the most part enough?
Yeah, for partial, not for full.
Yeah.
Performance. No,
This is very, I know. Both of these things have a lot of, it's all with the same people in the same area. So, can I ask you, I mean, would you be good with it? Do you want us to see this?
it really holds up that someone who's dead something started. They can't really what it's holding them up.
Yeah.
We wouldn't do it to somebody else. Why are we doing it to them? So it's like,
Could that be
it's
significant for appeal because of
yeah, well, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's definitely, how do we handle all this usually? You know, and that's not what you do. It's just because of its off-site issues that it's crazy noise all over this. They're waiting for you to fuck.
Yeah, I know. So we want to do it. So, we'll throw you the lead and then we'll just get it passed.
How's everybody doing? She was here earlier with some good ones.
I heard that.
Ray dominated the agenda for about an hour, and then the Grady had it for about an hour. Somebody started before the permit got issued, did clear cut, and we hadn't gone through the stormwater stuff. Yeah. I feel like I was in Hanover, Yeah. So, you guys wanna, we start on the RDA or the COC?
I prefer to get started on the COC.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
My name is Joe Iantosca. I represent Fern Properties. We've developed Benjamin Studley Farm. I'm here with Deb Keller, who's from McKenzie Engineering. She's done all the engineering work. Matthew Watsky, who has represented us for all the legal matters inside the project. And David Iantosca, who's one of the principals, and Paul Bork, who's been guiding us with some of the development work. We're in front of the board this evening to request a partial certificate of compliance for this project. Just a little bit of history going back. This has been in front of the board for different stages, starting with wetland delineations and other issues back to 2010, 2011. In 2011, I believe, 2013, there was litigation on this project that was settled between the board and Fern Properties regarding requirements that the board would like to see as far as requirements for this development. A couple of the requirements that were stipulated within the agreement was a wet basin that was to be constructed in the front of the property, or a wetland basin. And it also required us to install and replace 2 culverts across that were existing in place. One was an easterly one was a westerly one. And they were specific towards paragraphs 6 and 7 and 8 of this settlement agreement that was signed by the board, I believe it was recorded back in 2013. It had also required, prior to the transfer of ownership of any of the building lots within the subdivision, that a partial or a complete order of certificate of compliance was obtained by the applicant, which would be Fern Properties. So that was part of the agreement that the board had, and Fern Properties had entered into. Subsequent to that, the design, based upon the requirements in here, the design was put to paper, and it was vetted, it was peer reviewed, it was reviewed by the board, as well as it went through planning board, and it was approved. An order of conditions for the project was approved, and it was signed, and I believe it was recorded back in February of 2014. After some back and forth, there was approximately, I don't know, somewhere about 70 items in the order of conditions. One of the order of conditions on number 9, I believe 49, requires us to apply for a request for a certificate of compliance on this project once the construction work has been completed on the plans. We started work, site clearing, and did the majority of the site work starting in June of last year, right through the fall. Stabilized all the grass areas, planted everything, and we went to the planning board in November of last year and had all the lots released. The planning board had...
You had, I'm sorry, all the what?
The building lots.
Oh, the lots released, I'm sorry, okay.
9 lots in the subdivision,
Okay, yep.
in the building lots.
Sorry,
The
yep.
lots were released from the covenant by the planning board with the issuance of a bond that we posted in the neighborhood of $76,000 to $78,000. So the lots, that was recorded at the registry, the lots have been released. Spring rolled around and we had some plantings that were required to be installed in the wet basin, which we were not able to do because of the amount of water that was in place from all the rainfall last year. So this spring, we completed the balance of the plantings that were required on site. And some of the dead plantings we replaced. We had Brad Holmes, who was our environmental consultant, go on site. And in June, he did an inspection. He had been doing periodic inspections of the work, had done an inspection, provided a memo to the planning board, and a copy was issued to the Conservation Commission with his recommendations of what needed to be done. There were some minor maintenance items, but the plantings were done according to the plan. At this point, prior to starting any construction on the homes and requesting any building permits, we felt that we would like to have the subdivision, the work that was done on the infrastructure examined and as-built plan put into place, which is one of the requirements of the order of conditions. Have the boards go out, walk the site, prepare a punch list, have the engineers prepare a punch list, and any of the items that needed attention in order to fulfill this order of conditions be taken care of. And we've had McKenzie Engineering do the as-built. We've requested Pat Gallivan go on and make an inspection of the site. I believe the planning board has also been out there several times, as well as Pat Brennan, who's your consultant for Amory Engineers. Based upon their review, there were 4 or 5 items that need to be addressed that were sent to this board that were noted by McKenzie Engineers and also reviewed by Amory Engineers. And at this point, we feel that 95% of the work has been done according to the order of conditions and plans that have been submitted, and we're in front of the board requesting a partial certificate of compliance. I believe that there are a few outstanding items that are on this punch list, and there is some concern about the outlet pipes that we replaced for the town on Clap Road. And I believe that Mr. Snow has issue, and his attorney is here to represent him along with his surveyor, regarding the outlets and the sediment traps that were constructed on the south side of the road, which are these two right here. As part of the order of conditions, as part of the agreement that we had initially back in 2013, and as part of the design plan and as part of the planning board plan that has been approved, these were requested to be built. The sediment traps that were installed on this side were not necessary as part of our drainage analysis or part of our drainage system. The reason why these sediment traps were installed and these pipes were put into place were, number one, to replace the existing culverts that were in place by the town. There was a concern that there was a lot of sheet flow or overflow water that was flooding the street and eventually freezing. So we were required to replace the culverts. The sediment traps at the south side of the road, were a request by the DPW. And I believe as part of the state mandate, and correct me if I'm wrong, the DPW is under the requirements of MS4 to treat any of their stormwater where it comes off of a roadway, especially if it's untreated, to have these sediment basins collect any of the dirt and grit that would wash through. And initially, one of the basins that the town had installed was strictly a catch basin, and nothing was being treated. It was going directly into the catch basin, and then any of the sand or salt or grit and fines were shooting directly into the swamp to the south side. So the DPW had requested us to put these in. It wasn't necessarily a wetland requirement, but it was helping the town work their way up towards compliance with the MS4. With that, the work, everything that we have has been done, other than there's a few punch list items that Deb Keller from McKenzie can express to the board. And I believe, based upon the order of conditions that we have in place and based upon the settlement agreement that was entered into with the town, we believe that we should be filing for and obligated to file for partial certificate of compliance.
Okay, so, no, floor is still yours.
Why don't we have Deb give a quick review of the technical issues and identify specifically the items that are not being included in the request for the partial certificate. So what we are looking for is a partial certificate that approves all of the work that was approved under the order except for specific itemized things. Okay. So Deb can give you that and make it clear.
Okay. List was identified in the request for the certificate of compliance, and it includes the rear basin infiltration function investigation and remediation, which is ongoing. We've gone out and done some testing. We've submitted a summary as to what we're going to do, and basically the end result is that it was designed and built per the plan for the design requirements, and we need to watch it through the fall and the spring. What we feel impacted the basin was the location of the temporary basin that was constructed just up gradient here, which is basically no longer needed, so we can keep that dry, and we'll watch the basin through this next fall and spring season to make sure that it's functioning properly. The trash rack on the outlet control structure on the rear basin needs to still be installed. The reduction of one of the sediment traps across from Clap Road was installed too large, needs to be reduced, so that hasn't been addressed yet.
Just for clarity, a future reference, we refer to that one as the eastern sediment trap.
Okay,
There's one on the
eastern.
west and one on the east. So the eastern sediment trap is the south side of the platform.
Two street construction items are basically the top course, which won't be done until the lots are primarily constructed. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, Laura asked us to not put in the street trees just yet.
Correct.
So Laura Harbottle, planner, asked us not to install the street trees yet. And then basically continued maintenance, and I believe there's another year inspections for Brad to do to comply with the 2 years.
I'm not sure if there was another year that was required from a wetland consultant, but I believe we have a 2-year period that we have to guarantee all the plantings within the site. And I believe aside from the planning board bond that's in place, the commission has a cash bond to ensure that any dead plantings will be replaced after the 2-year period.
2 year from when?
From the initial construction or planting.
But if all the plans aren't going at the same time, they all won't be meeting that condition in 2 years.
Well, you need to have, my understanding is that you need to have at least 75% of growth within all the areas, so that's what, you place them as you make sure that you can attain that percentage.
So
I think that those are all the...
those are the exceptions, you're saying, to what you're requesting?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And some of the information has been passed along to you as it's come in from Brad Holmes. We have the wetland report, and what he did was he talked about what went into the different basins, and he submitted photographs. So we had the wetland part of it. Then we had Pat Brennan go up there, and Pat Brennan came up with a list of questions, and we asked him to say, were you in, is it in compliance with what has been asked to be done so far? So he went through each basin, and I think one of the issues was the temporary construction basin that was up there was used to receive pumped water from the lower one until the plants took. And I think that could have been causing some, according to him, it could have been causing some difficulties on the created basin at the upper level of the thing. So he went through all the questions. In his analysis, he said that he felt it could be a partial certificate of compliance. You can't give a full one because of 2 years, and there were a few other things that he asked about. But I think he was in agreement with the way things were built, the location they were built in. The functioning of the lower basin was meant to keep water in it. A lot of the neighbors had concerns, was it supposed to be a dry basin or mowed, but it's supposed to have a wet bottom to it. He asked one question, and it didn't come in till today to us, was about the mounding analysis, and I think he wanted you to go through in his comment.
He did send that to me, and I believe, again, the requirement for the mounting analysis is not quite accurate. And again, he didn't see the full design, but we're not required to do a mounting analysis if we, the easiest way for me to explain it is turn off the infiltration for all the higher storms. It's 10-year higher. We basically take a conservative approach and say that we're not allowing any infiltration in the basin in those higher storm events if we're within that 4-foot separation to groundwater, which we were in. So therefore, that mounting analysis was not done. But we did, however, in our initial design of that basin, perform a mounting analysis to look at more so the lateral movement of groundwater and looking at the down gradient abutting properties. So I can work with Pat and we'll sort that out.
Okay. I mean, for projects like this where there's disagreements and, there's appeals possibly as to what we should do, we rely on our legal counsel and our review engineer. So, we have a letter here from Pat going through step by step. I don't know if you want to take time to look at it again. It's been emailed out to you, but it's his contention that it's been constructed the way it was supposed to be based on the plans that were approved. Things changed after that. It was after it was already constructed. So he was saying, that maybe things happen in the future. We don't know, and that's more of a legal issue. But he's looking at what was constructed as far as the stormwater thing. So I don't know if you want to take a look at.
So has Toomey weighed in on this?
I spoke with him today, and I think it's his feeling that if we're comfortable with the stormwater piece, if any other project came in and there were no legal issues and this is what was presented, would we issue a partial? And I think the answer to that would be yes, based on Pat Brennan's report.
Can I just ask a couple quick questions?
Yeah, no,
all right.
have at it.
The 95% of the work to be done, there's another 5%. Now, is that part of the partial CFC, or do we condition that, or how does that work? What are the elements that still...
Yeah, they're all in the order of conditions.
Okay.
And so we don't close out the final certificate of compliance until everything is working fine and constructed the way it was supposed to, including some, like, annual cleaning out of areas
Yeah,
that
the
have to be
maintenance thing.
maintained,
Yeah,
the O&M,
okay.
so.
Okay, and so whatever it is, might not be 95, whatever those couple points are, plus the exceptions, are the things that are on the other part of the...
Right, and one of the confusing pieces is that there's a combination of street drainage and possibly site stormwater overflows that are on the other side of the street. But I think Pat's contention was it was more of street drainage and things that had gone on in the past. And the answer would be, did they contain what they were supposed to contain on site? They contained it, treated it, but there's street flow.
And that's the crux of my question. What we are saying is that the way they said they were going to build it, if you don't mind me, and the way it was built is correct. And that the stormwater calculations to that as built was correct.
Right, I mean, over time, you see if it's maintained and it's still functioning, but, it's new, so.
Okay. Thank you.
So, yeah, go ahead.
All right, I'm no expert. I don't know anything about these calculations. All I know is it's not working. It didn't work this winter. Yes, you are correcting it, but I have issue because they haven't even started to clear cut yet. All they've done is put a road in. So you can have all your calculations from here to Timbuktu. It did not work properly this winter with just a roadway in. So I want to see it go through this winter, this fall, this winter and spring, and be working.
Yeah, I think.
It's not just the basin out back, it was the basin in the front. I've been out at that site numerous times, on-site visits with you, with Pat, myself. I'm not happy, and like I said, I'm not an expert, but I do have some common sense, and my common sense tells me this needs to prove itself a little bit better before I can, in good conscience, issue any kind of a CSC, partial, quarter, whatever. And I also, the one across the street, I don't know how you're gonna fix that until you fix the legal issue there. So I'm gonna give a CSC, a partial, on something that could be years down the road before it can be taken care of, because I have no idea where the legal issue is going to go. I'm not trying to stop your project at all, but I don't really understand until those basins work better than they worked last winter and this spring, where you're having to pump water from one to the other and back and forth, and it was like a free-for-all out there as far as I'm concerned. And I'm just a lay person, but my gut tells me that needs to prove itself before I, in good conscience, could vote to give them a CSC.
Yeah, a couple of things have happened recently, too, that, I agree, after the winter, it looked like, wow, some work needs to be done. We asked that the soil evaluation underneath the upper basin be conducted to make sure it's not all clay or silted in. And Peter Dillon, who's done a lot of soil work around, was out with SLT. They dug a few holes, and a report came into us this past week. And one of the things that may have influenced that that basin was the temporary basin for during construction, which held water. That was where, and
I
water's pumped in there.
understand all these
Right.
things may have contributed.
Right.
So supposedly, we've corrected it. I want to see it work, is what I'm saying. I want to see it work. They haven't cut the trees down to build a house. The runoff is going to be much greater once all those trees go. So I would like to see it work now that they've hopefully corrected the problems before I give a stamp of approval on anything. That's
We
my
walked that
feeling.
site during one of the flood things, and it was wet everywhere.
Wait until the trees come down.
Just for clarification, the rear basin investigation and remediation, as Pat suggested, I was out there when Peter was out there while we were looking at it. It helped us prepare the summary. And part of our recommendations is to evaluate it through the fall and spring, as you're mentioning. That's what we're looking to do. That's part of the exclusion from the partial COC that you'd be voting on. That's one of the items that we're taking out. So that
But you can't correct the basin across the street until you get that legal issue done. I mean, there's a lot of things. I mean, I just am not comfortable because, like I said, I might be a lay person, but all the calcs didn't work the first year. So then they went back and they redid things, and they found some problems that say we're all human. You know, now we're supposedly correcting the problems, well, I want to see that it works, that's all.
Excuse me, I just want to clarify a couple of points. First of all, we haven't gone out to the site and corrected any problems. The drainage basin in the backside is functioning, its main reason why it's up here is to collect any of the stormwater that's running from the top of the hill down.
Yeah.
And the second part of that function is that it's been designed to hold water. It should be infiltrating and recharging the water after 72 or so many hours after a storm event. And if we have a continuous storm event, it continues on.
It was holding it for a lot longer than 72 hours.
Understood. And
Yeah.
so that was pointed out to us from the planning board as well as an issue with conservation. So that is why we put a plan in place, and we discussed this back in June, but our consultants, our geo people said that before we could do anything, the basin had to be 100% dry to examine the soils to see what was going on. It was holding water, but we felt that the infiltration was slower than what was required. What they had indicated to us as part of the construction process of this road, in order to keep any of these basins clean, is we were required to put in a sediment basin to treat any of the runoff from the construction work. And I think it's a good idea to keep in place during the house construction, so if there's any sediments, they don't go inside the permanent basin, but they're collected in this spot. We were also required to, as part of the agreement that was done in 2013 with this board, to put a wet basin in the front. And I don't think everybody understood what a wet basin is, because there's not a lot of them being built, and now they're becoming more common. But having a wet basin in place requires there's about 2 feet of standing water to 2.5 feet of standing water in the front of this. And one of the requirements that we had to be careful of is to make sure that we had continuous water supply in there in order for the wet plants to survive. Part of the construction process of that was to keep the water low enough when the plants are small enough to allow them to thrive. And so that basin with a small 2-inch pump had to pump water to this location, which a 2-inch pump, our consultant said to us, it pumps about 100,000 gallons of water a day. And that pump ran last fall during the days that we worked there, and this spring, and it pumped up to the upper basin. And based upon the soil evaluations that they did when they dug the test holes, we dug a half a dozen hand holes earlier in the year, and then when it was dry, we put an excavator in there. There were indications in the soil strata that the water from the temporary basin, you can see the iron layer, was running into this main basin. And we talked about possible ways of doing any type of reconstruction, but their feeling was this basin was designed properly, it was constructed properly, we shouldn't mess around with it as it is right now, but we should monitor it for the course of a year, especially during the wet season after the snowfall in the spring. And at that point, if there's any work that needs to be done, there are a couple of other plans that can be put in place. So part of the partial certificate would be to address the monitoring of that work. As far as any of these other basins, these basins were constructed properly out front, and we haven't had to go back and fix them. They were designed to hold water, there's 2.5 feet of water. That's the way that they were designed, and that's the way they're functioning. As far as the outfalls on the other side, that was part of the plan that we were required to build, and that's what we put in place. So according to the order of conditions that we have, we've complied with the work that's been requested by the board.
Wait.
As soon as I finish. But if the board so desires, at some point, and as part of our partial, if it is in the best interest of the parties that are here that the sediment traps are to be removed, then that is an item that we can discuss with Mr. Snow and would be part of the full certificate of compliance.
You stand there and you say you built them. You built them wrong. That's why they have to be replaced. I've been out there with you. They were not built properly. They were not built according to the plans. We make errors. I want to see the back basin working before I will sign for a CSC partial. I want it to work. It was supposed to work originally, and it didn't, and that's okay. Now we're correcting it. Let's see it work before we issue.
As Penny has commented, she wants to see the back one work. Although you have both our engineer and you have your own peer review engineer saying it's been constructed consistent with the approved plan, we've provided you with a list that says we're not asking for the certificate at this moment on the rear basin. You have a list of exceptions. Under the statute, we're entitled to a partial certificate for all the work that has been completed consistent with the permit. The statute says within 21 days of the receipt of a written request, the applicant or the owner of the property seeking a partial certificate of compliance, the issuer of the final order shall grant such request if the activity or portions thereof complies with such final order. We're entitled to apply for a partial certificate. We acknowledge that there are things you want to look at further. Those are not included in the partial certificate. You have a list of exceptions. We're entitled as a matter of law to have a partial certificate issue on the rest of them. As to the concern about what's going to happen on the south side of Clap Road, we have a request for partial certificate saying that let's call it the western sediment trap has been built completely consistent with the permit. Deb is included as an exception the eastern sediment trap because it's slightly larger than approved. As to the question of the rights and the title to the land, I believe your town council has advised you the Conservation Commission is not a body that has authority to rule on title to land and make decisions that are based on the title to the land. There's an application that was filed, it was accepted, an order's been issued, work is done consistent with it, and we're entitled to the certificate.
Pat, do you see, going through their list of exceptions, do you see additional issues that, or are you comfortable with that list based on?
Yeah, I was just going to get back to Penny. Penny, I'd be totally in agreement with you if this was for a final certificate of compliance. There's outstanding things, and I think that it would be, we'd be making a mistake if we said, yep, we're fine with the whole project. I think the problems have been identified, and I think Pat Brennan feels like there's minor corrections that can be made, and that, they've asked the applicant to come up with some of these corrections. But monitoring it and cleaning it and doing all these things are going to be part of it over the next year or 2 years or whenever before the final. But I think as Matthew mentioned, the right to get a partial certificate is something that they may be entitled to because of the way it's been constructed. They didn't know, as far as we know, in the beginning that those basins across the street were in the wrong place. So they had built it according to the approved plan. And now we're looking at some changes, some tweaking on some things, and then maybe something that over time will get better. The plants will grow in, they'll absorb more water, and then the upper basin, the correction that Peter Dillon recommended, I think we could live with that as a partial.
Mr. Chairman, I really need to follow up on one thing. I am not going to get into the details of it, but we don't agree with the proposition that the basins on the south side of the road are built in the wrong place. We're disagreeing entirely with the advocacy by Mr. Snow. And if we have to, we'll defend that, but it's not a place, I'm not going to get into the details of it, it's just a place to adjudicate. If we can reach a resolution with them, we will, but they're built right where they were supposed to.
The sizing is off of one, and that will be corrected, and that'll have to be, we wouldn't close without that being corrected on the final certificate.
Okay, Pat, what I'm saying, and they keep saying the same thing, yes, everybody thinks these corrections will work. Our expert, their expert, thought the original would work. It didn't work, did it? That's why I'm having a problem. Yes, they are the experts, they have the calculations, but that doesn't mean it's always perfect.
Right.
We've seen that once, and I'm not saying they're wrong this time. I want to see that they're right. I thought they were right the last time, but they weren't because we had all these problems throughout the winter. Now they've made corrections. All I'm asking is, I would like to see the corrections work.
Right, but giving I understand what you're saying, but they're also making a very fair request. We're not giving a complete certificate of compliance and saying thumbs up, we're done, and waiving any ability to deal with this. There are issues. Do you not agree that they, out of all the orders, you can't say, well, no, we're not going to approve anything because of a particular issue? Does that make sense?
Yes and no, because I'm afraid these basins, if they're not working properly now, once you start to clear cut, to put the houses in, we've got a lot more runoff.
So you're going to deny any?
No, I'm not denying them.
Okay.
Keep going.
They're asking for partial.
But these aren't working right yet. I don't have a guarantee that they're working right yet. We've had a very dry summer.
I have a question for Pat. I understand, I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. So my question would be, if we issue a partial certificate and we have a repeat of problems with these basins, what is our recourse as a commission if we've already issued a partial?
I mean, we could put a stop work on something that's causing flooding and impacting a resource area. If it turns out everything is getting flooded all over the place and corrections aren't made to stop that, we could stop the work that's going on.
So we can withdraw the partial that we issued?
Well, yeah, it would be different than a withdrawal of the partial. It would be on an enforcement order type of thing, you're causing damages off-site that, shouldn't have happened.
I think Jeff is raising his hand.
I can answer your question. As a practical matter, the project needs to have a complete certificate of compliance. We're asking you to issue a partial. We're agreeing to exclude the rear detention basin from the partial, so it's not going to have a certificate on the rear basin. We're also acknowledging that the plantings in the front basin aren't finished. We're not asking for a partial certificate on it.
No, I know, I understand all.
So your recourse is that we need to have a certificate of compliance, a full and complete one, issued for the project. And so if things don't work properly, if it's not built,
So they can start, keep going.
then you don't issue the certificate. You need one.
So let me ask you a question. Why do you want a partial certificate of compliance?
Go.
Because
you can move forward.
They keep going.
We haven't issued them before.
the project.
On development.
No, they have to.
No, we haven't.
No, that's how we did. They need this.
It's a matter of law.
Okay.
Can I ask a general question?
Oh, 1 minute.
Yeah.
Could you ask Jeff? Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. Jeff DeLisi, I represent Frank Snow. I'm here with Greg Moore, who also represents Frank Snow. Just on this one issue that the commission's talking about, I think that one of the reasons why it's not a good idea to get into the practice of issuing partial certificates with all these exceptions is because if any one of these lots is conveyed to a third party, then guess whose problem it becomes? It's not fully a developer issue. And it's actually becomes part of the homeowners association, another party who might be walking into a situation who doesn't have the knowledge that this commission has and that these professionals have to be able to make, a decision that allows that, this is potentially a repeat of the Walnut Tree Hill situation that this town has had. If this commission passes the buck on performance issues and just accepts the essential, the whole reason for this order of conditions is the drainage. So to me, it would seem like, either the drainage works and you issue an order concerning the drainage as a whole without accepting items out of it, or you don't. Or not an order, a certificate. So that's that issue. I filed a letter with the commission a few weeks ago, kind of outlining very generally what my issues are. With the letter, I enclosed a copy of a plan that Morse Engineering did. When this property was, when work was constructed and things had begun back in February, I think it wasn't until around the summertime that the applicant got around to actually doing the work to the culvert and on the opposite side of the road. When that work was being done, Mr. Snow recognized it, discovered it, immediately called the applicant, called Pat, hired Morse Engineering to get a definitive understanding, is this on my property or isn't? Because Frank was not made a party to the notice of intent. He was not made a party he's not bound by the order of conditions, though the CMRs specifically say that when somebody's filing a notice of intent, they have to get property owner permission. So now we have structures that are built on Frank's property, and there's no information in front of this commission that actually shows anything other than what the Morse Engineering plan shows, that these structures are actually on Frank's property. In fact, in a letter to Pat dated November 12th, Attorney Waskey actually said, quote, engineers did not perform the detailed title and survey work to establish the property lines between the road and Mr. Snow's land on the opposite side of Clap Road from the subdivision. So this is not just an issue of, is it on the property or isn't it? It's also an issue of an operation and maintenance plan. It's an issue of the order of conditions itself, because I counted at least 7 conditions in your order that can't be and are not complied with. And I don't think that a certificate should issue for them. For instance, condition number 5 and 17 require that the property owner also be the applicant. Condition number 27, the order of conditions applies to drainage facilities. Well, guess what? A drainage facility is what was constructed on the opposite side of the street. Condition number 51 requires maintenance as being the responsibility of the owner. Condition 59, 60, 72 require homeowners associations, operation and maintenance plans. All of these things specifically apply to to the applicant's property, not to Mr. Snow's property. He's not bound by an operation and maintenance plan. He's not bound by this order of conditions. He has demanded that these things be removed, and if these things are removed, the question is does this drainage, what the work that this order covers, does it actually function properly? In the letter that Amory Engineering actually submitted to the commission, on the second page of the letter, it details these 2 culverts. And what it basically says is It's a west culvert and an east culvert. And on the west culvert, there had been a 12-inch pipe underneath the road. Now there's two 15-inch pipes. On the east culvert, there had been a 12-inch pipe under the road. Now there's three 15-inch pipes. So you're increasing the size and the number of the pipes, changing the location of these culverts, and more importantly, the whole purpose for the settlement agreement, which, by the way, only applies to one of the two culverts. All right? The whole purpose for the settlement agreement, from the town's perspective, was to prevent water from sheeting over the road. And the whole concept behind that was there was water that was icing up, sheeting over the road. Now what's happening is it's not sheeting over the road. What's happening is it's being collected, diverted, and concentrated right onto two specific areas of Frank's property, creating wetlands and augmenting existing wetlands. That's a problem. And the condition number, I think Amory's footnote number 2 on the second page, yeah, it did say the east culvert was designed under normal conditions so that flow rate isn't increased, but the footnote says that in storm conditions it is. So we have an actual effect on the property across the street where these things shouldn't have been built, and they were. We've demanded that they be removed, and if there's a partial certificate that issues, it's basically saying these structures on the opposite side of the street are okay. And I think that there's a problem there. You have orders, or you have conditions of your order of condition that require ownership and maintenance through homeowners associations and so forth that are impossible to be performed. And I think the statement was made tonight that the whole, that neither one of these culverts is intended or accentuates the drainage characteristics or something to that effect. Like, in other words, they're not contributing to the drainage of the subdivision, that they're really something that the town wanted. Well, Amory Engineering actually said that the discharge piping from Stormwater Basin 1, which is the largest basin on that property, right, is also routed through these culverts. So now you have something directly coming from the basins to Frank's property. I just don't see how a certificate could actually issue until the legal issues are cleared up so that this thing can be maintained and repaired properly. A party could be actually responsible for it. None of it doesn't make sense, from my perspective, as to how that could be accomplished if this thing is partially.
Let me ask you two quick questions. First of all, can the property be transferred with a partial? So can one of these lots be sold?
Absolutely.
With the partial,
but for practical purposes, it won't be.
Okay. Secondly, in the issues that you just kind of related to us, are any of them beyond property ownership issues, which we've been suggested to stay out of?
Well, yeah, because you have a situation where even though there's an agreement with the town that only applied to one of the two culverts, the westerly culvert, not both culverts. I have the agreement right here, the culvert. Even though that's there, Frank's not bound by it. And what's happening is that because this water is being collected and discharged in a concentrated location, it's actually affecting the property. So it goes beyond ownership. It's actually putting water, all water that was being collected into one or two different spots as opposed to dispersed throughout. So yeah, and this issue of the RDA is equally related to it, because if a partial issues and a house gets built over there, well, guess what? They're going to want to sell it. And of course they're going to want to sell it. So you have a situation where you could actually have a maintenance issue that has nothing to do with ownership, because this commission, and in particular really the planning board, didn't insist upon upon having the owner of the actual property across the street a party to. And I think that that's because the property lines were never properly surveyed in the first instance.
Can I
Yes.
clarify something, please? Number one, the statement that we're increasing the size and number of culverts is true, it's on the plan. The purpose, and what is also being neglected to mention, is the existing 12-inch pipe that's located here is now being replaced with 315 so that we can get all of the water underneath the road instead of over the road, is controlled by an inlet structure so that we can control the flow so that we comply with both peak rate and peak volume as required in the town's stormwater bylaw. So in both of these instances with these cross culverts, we're not letting more water go through, we're controlling it with an inlet structure at this location where there was an existing cross culvert. And here, we're collecting the town's catch basin, which we replaced for them, as well as crossing over with, yes, 2 15 inches, correct, but we have an outlet control structure from the pocket wetland out front, which I would say is smaller than the rear basin, to control the flow again, so that I look at this inlet structure and this inlet structure as the two end points of what controls the subdivision for drainage as it applies to Clap Road. Obviously, we have a discharge in the rear as well. Just for clarification, so that...
I think Greg might have a little comment to that. I don't know.
Right?
Sure. I haven't performed a complete investigation of the drainage out here, but out front, the locations that I have looked at and what I've noticed is exactly what I heard earlier, is the fact that in the pre-existing condition, there was a sheet flow condition across Clap Road. The front of this property would fill up and act as a basin, and when it overtopped, it would sheet flow across the road. What Deb just explained in her presentation is that she was looking at the flow on the inlet side of Clap Road, or the project side of Clap Road. And sure, they might meet the rates and volumes at that location, but in the pre-existing condition, that rate and volume was applied over the breadth of Clap Road. It was a weir. It was created as a sheet flow condition. Now that we have an inlet control device and we're directing it directly through piping under the ground, it's coming out as a concentrated flow. So the rate and volume that was applied over the entire frontage is now being applied at one specific location.
All that I'm sure is true. It's also true that it was exactly the way it was presented in the permit plans, exactly the way it was reviewed by the town's peer review engineer, both for the planning board and for the conservation commission, and exactly the way it was issued and approved in the order of conditions. So it's been built, the project has been built consistent with the plans as they're approved in the order. We disagree that there's any excess water that is actionable by Mr. Snow. There's something called the reasonable use rule for the flow of water. I've discussed that with town council. It's a property rights issue. And if Mr. Snow really feels that this is an issue, he go ahead and file a lawsuit and try to deal with it. But it is not the Conservation Commission's issue, nor is the question of whether he owns the land or not. And he does not own the land, in my view. I know it's nice to have council refer to it as Frank's land. He doesn't own this parcel where the two pieces, the riprap is. And I'm not going to get into the details of how I reached that conclusion. It's not for the commission to deal with. The western basin, for what it's worth, is also sitting exactly in a 20-foot deeded drainage easement that's shown on his plan.
It's not deeded.
So you have a request for partial certificate of compliance that complies with the statute. You have your own peer review engineer confirming that the work has been done consistent with the permit. You have our engineer telling you that the work's been done consistent with the permit and with the plans. And we're asking simply for the partial certificate to issue while leaving the specific itemized things left.
I have a question. Jeff, I have a question for you, okay? So based on, if we issue this partial COC, does that transfer the responsibility for any future problems from the developers to the homeowner if they buy the lot? Or will the developer still be responsible if there is a problem?
I think both parties would be responsible because both would be owners of portions of the subdivision and both would probably be part of the homeowners agreement. So I think that both would be. That's my...
So the homeowner would absorb a problem that was never corrected?
Yeah, absolutely. By virtue of being a part of the homeowners association, sure.
Excuse me, can I clarify that? Sure. I've had a little bit of experience with this work. I've probably been doing this for at least 40 years. And I've built several hundred homes, including subdivisions. The work that's remaining in this subdivision, if there's an issue with the drainage or any portion of the subdivision that's not working, we have a performance bond with the planning board that if there's an issue with any of the drainage structures or problems with the infrastructure of this road, there's a surety bond in place, or there's a cash bond in place that if we don't perform, that money gets used towards any of this work. There's a homeowners association in place that was mandated prior to getting any approvals by the planning board. But if there was remaining work in this project that we walked away from and we left the $78,000 with the planning board, that would also open up my company to all sorts of litigation with any potential homeowners. So there's absolutely no reason for me to walk away from, I need a full certificate of compliance from this board in order to complete what we need to do in this. And I believe that over the past 3 years that we've been working with this board, wherever they have requested, not only at this board, but with the planning board, whether it's through peer review and multiple iterations of this plan, we've performed and done what the board's asked. So I believe that we have a performance bond in place if there is an issue with non-performance of any of this, and there's a potential liability of a homeowner getting that if the developer doesn't perform. Then we're also getting good exposure on that as well.
Just as one additional item is that the developer is the homeowners association and is completely in control of and financially responsible for the homeowners association until the majority of the lots have been built and sold. Having construction on one of them doesn't transfer any responsibility to the homeowner who buy that.
In your opinion, do the two drainage ditches on the other side of Clap Road augment the existing drainage from the Fern property?
They're not required to comply with any stormwater management design or treatment for the subdivision. That's sort of what I was trying to get at when I said I look at this outlet control structure and these two outlet control structures as the end of the subdivision at this point, so that I have to make sure that I treat and mitigate any runoff by that point.
So your collective contention would be that with the control from those three pipes, that it would not increase the flow to any degree that was there previously, right?
Correct.
Right.
Peak rate and
That's
volume.
right. And the sediment traps on the south side of the road are not functioning in any way to collect sediment from the subdivision. They are there solely for the MS4 permit for the town.
So Pat, after talking with Pat Brennan, you're familiar with the issues of town council, what is your opinion of how we should proceed now?
Not being a lawyer or an engineer, I spoke with Jim Toomey. He said to stay out of the legal battle right now. He says, look at it as you would any other subdivision looking for a partial certificate of compliance. So then we would go to Pat Brennan and say, is it built in compliance to the point where we could issue a partial certificate of compliance? And he said it would be. So there are conditions in place, and Penny brought up a number of good points. We want all those to be taken care of. But I think that's when you get closer to a certificate of compliance. When the project is built out, you've had some time to work on what isn't working fine. I think every project during construction goes through a lot of siltation of the basins and everything. So I think you get them cleaned out and you see how it works. So I think, you know, just asking the two of them, they said they felt comfortable with issuing a partial.
Not to belabor this point, but what does a partial C of C allow you to do that
Sell lots.
not getting it wouldn't allow you to do?
Sell lots.
This,
Was that convoluted English? I'm sorry.
The purpose for doing that is that we have built the subdivision according to the plans that we have. And part of the conditions of the order of conditions to apply for a certificate of compliance. And also, as part of any sale for any home that's built in there, we should have a partial certificate of compliance for the work that's done within the subdivision.
Okay, so essentially it would be, this next step would be allowing you to sell the properties. Right, okay.
So without the partial COC, your hands would be tied and you wouldn't be able to sell any lots?
that's not,
You'd still be able to sell lots, but instead of having to put aside the money that would cover all possible contingencies, you focus in on the ones that you know that are left and are at issue.
No, but what I'm saying is if
they
you
certainly
didn't,
can sell them.
if you didn't receive a partial COC, would you be able to sell any lots?
We have never
From my
done
experience
one.
doing this,
No, I just want a yes or a no. Can you sell a lot without a partial COC?
from my experience, I need,
Well, I don't
need
really
to
care.
get any partial certificate of compliance when I go to sell a lot.
What's that?
Okay, so you guys are kind of stonewalled and can't sell a house, a lot, until you get a partial COC? Okay, and when you get the partial COC, how many lots does that free you up for whatever you get completed?
All of the lots right now that are covered under this certificate, under the order of conditions, which would be the entire project, that would allow us to transact on those.
Okay.
Yes, any of the lots within the subdivision, anything that's been released by the planning board, which are all nine of the lots within the subdivision.
Okay.
Just as a qualification on that, there are certain lots in the subdivision that are still within the buffer zone. How do I proceed? Either need a request for determination or a filing.
I have to make one point. I've been on the board 8 years. I'm into my 9th. I have never once had a developer come in, and we have never issued a partial CSC until the whole development was done. So it just is really rubbing me the wrong way. Why do you need it? The developments were sold, Stockbridge, they haven't come in for a partial. I am, by not issuing, I want to just see this stuff work over the winter and into the spring. You can go ahead and start building, I'm not stopping anyone. Huh? You gotta build them before you can sell them. In that time, we'll see whether those basins out back work properly. I don't think I'm asking for too much. You're not gonna build the house in the next 2 weeks and have it up for sale. I would like to see this go through the winter and the spring and come back and show me, hey, it's working. They can be out there building their houses all fall, honestly.
Just one last comment. There are conditions in the order of conditions that specifically deal with requesting a partial certificate. It's in the statute, it's in the regulation. It's also in the settlement agreement that we entered into with the town that resolved the last case. It specifically provides that no lot in the subdivision contemplated by the project NOI shall be transferred or conveyed until a full or partial certificate of compliance has been issued by the Conservation Commission for substantial completion of the work.
Right, so it does say they can't convey a lot.
Fine, but-
We're specifically required to come and seek a partial certificate.
Build
for
your house and
substantial-
come back to
For substantial
me.
completion of the work. We're required, that was the agreement with the commission. Contemplated that we would come here and seek a partial certificate, and our expectation is that when we've done
No.
that, the commission's in the issue.
Okay,
No, I
all
think
right.
he's saying that it
So,
would be.
so I understand that. However, there was no anticipation of the basins failing, and now for the fact that it has been, no, just
We
let me,
can't.
let me just finish, please. And corrections were made, and all Penny is asking is, there was a problem, you say you corrected it, she's just looking to see that this correction is going to work, and therefore, if we got through the winter and the spring, you're not being stopped from building, and then we get to see, in fact, that this correction has worked, and there won't be any future problems. That is my understanding.
That's what I'm asking, that's all.
Does it sound like in the settlement agreement, you have to get it? I mean, it sounds like you have to get a partial before you can release lots. Is that the way you just read that?
Yes, that we're required to apply for it, and the commission is required to issue one for substantial completion of the project.
So,
You have to meet our satisfaction, I would say.
right, but...
Just because you asked for it, just because you asked for it doesn't mean everything's right.
Conservation commissions, like any other board, are obligated to act on the basis of facts that are presented to them. You've got expert facts that have been presented to you. Your own peer review engineer and our engineer have certified to you that the project has been completed in compliance with the permits. You can't just pick something out of the air and say, well, I feel like it's something different.
I'm not picking something out of the air. I've been out there enough times. I do not feel as though those basins work. I want to see them work right. I'm not picking anything out of the air, sir. They
So-
were supposed to work. Now you've made corrections. Let's see if they work.
So we have two options here. One, continue. Two, vote, right?
Well, according to wetland protection, you're supposed to act on a request.
Oh, and within 21 days.
Within
right?
21
Yep.
days. We did get a legal advice at the last meeting to hold off and not do anything. So this is the second meeting, so we're beyond the 21 days. So I would think it would require a vote.
Okay. Well, with that in mind, does anybody have any more questions? Do you want to throw it out to the field?
Well, that's what I'm debating, if whether or not they would consent to it. Do we throw it out for a vote now, or I'm trying to think about, and I'm not saying this is the answer, just throwing an idea out there for Penny's concerns. Penny, what do you think about if we did continue it, next meeting, possibly get Pat Brennan in here and discuss these issues that you have concerns with?
I'm going with my gut, okay? I'm sorry. The experts told me this, the last time out. This did not work. All right? I have to go with my gut. I'm sorry. No, it won't make any difference to me whether Pat Brennan, I mean, I believe them, but nobody is perfect. Okay? They are professionals, but I want to see it work.
So
But she just wants time performance. Is that,
I want it
trying to understand
to
what you're saying? You're looking for time performance?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's just me, that's me, and I have to do what I feel is right, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I
So
can't be
we have to put
swayed.
it out to the audience. and-
Yes. Anybody else?
Just really quickly, despite my advocacy here tonight, I just want the commission to know that the parties have had some discussions with one another over the legal issue, over the ownership issue. And should the board think that a little extra time might be advisable or to the applicant if the applicant would agree, I think that the parties can continue to have those types of discussions over the course of the next few weeks. And it's possible, I suppose, that I could walk in here and say that we've resolved those issues. So,
But we're still up against the 21-day deadline, right?
well, I don't want to advise anybody, but I've been in this chair before, and if the applicant agrees to any continuance, then the 21 days is extended, I think.
Jeff, in due respect, even if you fellas came to an agreement tonight, okay, about across the street, that does not solve my problem with the basins out back that didn't work this winter in the flooding in the front, okay? I'm not looking at that. That has to be settled, but that's outside my purview. My purview is, it isn't working. And what now I'm even more concerned is if, say those have to be taken out across the street, okay? We're gonna have the sheeting back again, because your outlet, excuse me, you have an outlet in there, in the front pond. When it gets up a certain height, it goes in and goes across the street. Well, if it can't go across the street, where's it gonna go once it fills to the top?
The pipes were in existing locations where pipes were before, so.
I don't know, because I really don't want to get into so
I'm just talking about the pipes underneath the roadway portion.
But I know that section flooded all the time prior to you people even buying and everything. I mean, I've been here a long time. I've been here since 1950. My parents moved us from Hingham here. So I've watched this town and I've watched the West End. I know what's going on with these areas, and so that's always been a flooding issue. So then I have to wonder there. But I'm not looking at that. I'm looking strictly on site. I just want to see them work. I just want to see them work. You go ahead and start building your houses, and hopefully we'll come spring, everything's hunky-dunky and you're set to sell some. But
We're missing another member tonight because of a funeral, but would you consider requesting a continuance to our next meeting?
How does that impact the community?
Bill won't be here.
Yeah, I won't be, but, yeah, that's right.
Oh, okay. Bill won't be here.
That's right.
What's that?
So you have one that
Yeah,
missed tonight,
one,
and Bill
but
won't
it'd
be here
be a
next
trade-off.
meeting.
Oh, so, yeah, that wouldn't work.
Yeah, it's
Who will be here?
Hold on to that discussion there, folks. Don't say anything yet. And I don't know, he'd have to get right in on it, too.
That's
Right,
okay.
no, he can-
No, you can. You can sit in.
But I won't be here, so it's just an even trade-off.
Right. One nut for another
So it would
nut.
have to be 2 meetings.
Yeah, and that's no way they're gonna go for that.
That's 28 days. We need to find out for coverage for
Well,
28 days.
yeah, but I think we need to tell them that I'm not gonna be here.
They can't come back and say
Right?
no.
So they have, you guys, no, I'm not gonna be here. So I think that you need to know that in order, you need all the information to make that decision. Yeah.
Hearing that, I think the other member who's not here has a motor move problem, and I don't see how he can get up to speed on this. He didn't hear all of this. Bill's not going to be there. I don't see any way to continue.
Okay.
We have done that. I mean, we've brought them up to speed
We
in
did-
the past if they've missed one.
I actually
one
checked
meeting.
with the state on that the last time, and they let me read into the
Watch,
notes and
give
vote.
watch, and we're
Plus,
on
he can
TV.
also
another
watch,
property.
he can watch the video as well.
Might not like what he sees.
May not show up after he sees it.
I might stay out of the green tea.
Is there any information, with all due respect to the discussion that's had here, there's absolutely no way that I could run a business or do this type of work without having clear-cut goals in place and performance standards that I need to adhere to. And in order for me to just say, the standards that you have are clear-cut. We have an engineer design, we have peer review, they review it, there's a problem, it gets flushed out, and then once it's built, there's review inspections, There's as-bills that need to be done. It's clearly defined what we need to do. And then, like I said, there's a performance bond in place. If I don't have a clear, defined set of standards, other than saying we can wait until next spring to see what it looks like, there is absolutely no way that I could make a prudent decision by saying that's something that I could agree to. Nor would I build, or anyone else would decide to build one or multiple houses and then wait until next spring and say, all right, I'm ready to build and sell it to someone, someone's ready to move in, but I can't get anything from the board as far as a partial certificate because we're still not sure whether we like the way the grass is growing. That's really not the way it's supposed to work. It's supposed to be reviewed by the board, by their peer review, and the punch list items are supposed to be defined, and they're supposed to be given to us so we can act upon those. And I think that there's enough information between what Amory has spelled out that we can identify the issues of concern, that they can be bracketed in the partial certificate of compliance, that they need to be addressed before a full certificate of compliance is in place. And my guess would be that it's going to be 2 years or another 18 months before we're ready to get a full certificate of compliance. So if some of those issues should be well addressed over the course of the next 12 months.
So where we would roll from here, I guess, is we would vote, we'd have a motion to vote on the issuing a partial on the conditions that we are satisfied with. Does that sound right?
The conditions that were outlined and agreed to with Pat Brennan and with the applicant, there's a listing of them.
Can he make that motion as the chair? Can I probably even can't answer. Can you make that motion?
I should make.
All right, so I will. Make a motion to grant a partial CFC to the applicants with the existing exceptions included.
Conditions, ongoing conditions.
On the ongoing conditions. That's for a second.
Yes, do we have a second?
You can second it, right? Can you?
Can I?
You can vote. I don't know if you can second.
Yeah,
Lisa, do you want to second it? It's all right. No. So it's not going down.
So we don't have a second?
Nope. So we can't vote. Okay, lawyer-type people, now what?
You haven't taken any action.
Make another motion.
So could the other action be requesting if we accept this or deny it? Is that considered another action?
I think that
I don't want to deny it.
regulation requires that if it's denied, it has to state why.
So denied based on what Penny was saying of why she didn't? No?
I mean, you've taken another...
No, because we didn't get a second on that motion.
So we
Okay,
really haven't done anything.
right, so we haven't. So you need a motion that you can second and act on to progress from where we're at right
Okay,
now.
so if we were to accept the motion, then right here tonight, we could decide whether we are going to accept or deny the request.
That's correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Vote yes or no.
Okay,
Yes or no?
then I will.
Okay, so you're seconded.
Second.
Second,
So we have a
yes, as
second.
long as we are progressing to whether we're
Right
going to
here.
accept, yes.
Right here and there. Yep.
Okay.
So all those in favor of a partial
CFC,
CFC,
say
say aye.
aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
Okay.
It's not going anywhere. It's dead.
No. We did take an action. We voted on it. If we just don't have a quorum.
You don't have the majority vote, you didn't take action.
Well, the majority's here. There's 7 on the board, so 4's here. And no, you don't have a majority vote. It's dead.
All right, well, so you're taking no action.
We looked into this because there's only 4 people here. A majority of the commission would be all 4 people. For a notice of intent, you're voting on an order of conditions, you would need 4 votes in favor. If there were 5 people or 6 people there, you would still need 4. But I think if you're looking at maybe an RDA, this is what I'm reading anyway, an RDA or other business of the commission, it says that you can rely on 10.52 of the wetland regulations, which states that the business of the commission may be carried out by a majority of a quorum. So we have a quorum, so a majority of a quorum could be 3 that could carry out a vote.
And if you don't take action, it would probably be constructively approved.
We don't have legal counsel here, so I don't know.
Right.
Oh, so we would have to,
We have a second, and then the motion failed because of a tie vote.
right?
Any irregularities in commission practice under the Wetland Protection Act can be cured by an appeal to the Department of Environmental Protection. So,
And let's, open for suggestions there, folks, but. Should have had Toonie come.
There's also something that has to be read into the,
Oh, okay.
submitted, this isn't a butter.
Well, I'll explain that later. Carol, I have a letter here we want to enter into the record from Shan Morrissey to the Conservation Commission regarding Fern Properties.
Do you need to read it, or can you just enter it into the record?
she asked that it be entered into the record.
It can
Okay.
just be entered.
Yeah.
Okay.
It seems that the commission just hasn't been able to act on this, so I think we should just move on to the RDA.
Okay.
Okay.
This will be interesting.
This one's outside, that's why I think they can do it.
Okay, so this one is Lot 9, 2 Studley Farm Road, new build. Is it up
You have to
here?
open it?
Let me see.
Frank, let me take a look at this stuff.
I just have to go get some more. I'll be
Okay.
right back.
This stuff that you didn't,
Yeah, Carol, I'm not keen to taking it, I don't,
Matt, do you have a notice you could read?
Oh, yeah.
The file?
Frank probably had it in his file.
Yep.
well-organized pile.
You glad he's filling in his chair?
Yes, it's so much fun.
That's a good one.
That's it.
Okay. On August 19th, 2015, during their 6:15 PM meeting at the Town Hall, the Scituate Conservation Commission will act on the request of Fern Properties LLC for a determination of the applicability of the Mass Wetlands Protection Act and the Scituate Wetlands Bylaw to construct a single-family dwelling and septic system on property located at Lot 9, 2 Studley Farm Road, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend.
Deb Keller, Kensington. Just for orientation, Lot 9 is the first lot on the right as you come up through past the bend. It's on the right here.
Okay.
This lot has been designed, a septic design has been done, filed with the Board of Health and has been approved. This is the plan the Board of Health has seen as well. The limit of work is the exact same limit of work that was on the subdivision plan. The location of the septic system is in the same as the definitive subdivision. We still are maintaining the 2 roof dry wells that were shown on the definitive subdivision as well. Curb cut is in the same location. The only change that we did was shift the house as well as the septic system to the northwest along the property, which moved it approximately 5 feet farther away from basically this side, which is where the wetland is located off-site. Highlighting purposes, this is the 50-foot no disturb location, buffer to the off-site wetland. And as it moves forward, this is the property line here. There is a little panhandle here that is associated with Lot 9. That has been, through the definitive subdivision, was identified as an open space easement, so to sort of limit any clearing that happens in there. I think we did discuss that at the definitive subdivision permitting process. Pretty straightforward because we did follow along the definitive subdivision.
So this heavy line is the hay bale line?
Yes, that would be your erosion control.
And
unfortunately, you can't see the tree line here. It's those dots. The line type can come out. But that's the exact same tree line and erosion control line as per the definitive subdivision.
So where, can you just show me where the 150 are here? I'm sorry.
The 50-foot buffer is here, this line here.
Yeah.
It goes here, and this is the 100.
Okay.
That comes down
Thank you.
through there. So there's a small portion of the proposed house,
Yeah,
and
this is-
approximately half the septic systems. That would be the
Yeah.
septic.
Okay. You're doing septic on each one, eh?
Yes.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not the septic person, but
Yeah,
this
I mean,
is
but-
trenches so that the reserve is in between each.
Board of Health
Yeah.
approved it,
Yes,
right?
they did.
Yeah.
Yep.
They're the ones you have to please with that.
Deb, did you say down the end, the pork chop piece, that's all open space with trees remaining?
Correct.
Yeah.
We've identified it as
50?
an open
It's outside the 50, it's in the 100.
That line here. that way.
L's dots along.
Yes, that,
So
you
that's-
see that
Yeah.
line here are those dots, yeah.
Yeah, no.
So that's the same limit of work.
I don't have any fight.
So, in terms of, is this all, I mean, because this is all wooded area now, so is all of the trees going that are on this property? Or do we have some kind of delineation of what's, so everything inside of that?
That's the limit of work.
Yeah, so everything inside of that is gonna be
On this lot, yes.
cleared? Yeah, okay.
The grading on the plan is, again, the same as what was shown on the definitive subdivision as to where we're having the swale in the back, come around the backside, and everything in the front goes to the roadway.
So with a subdivision, the whole subdivision triggers stormwater, but, so this particular lot comes underneath the whole subdivision's auspices there? Okay,
We've designed it to be,
as part of the whole, yeah, okay. Thank you.
No more questions. Lisa? Nothing. Pat, any comments?
Yeah, I think the one change on stormwater is that the roof drainage is going to be captioned in underground infiltration, roof drainage structures.
that was on our definitive subdivision.
Right, and,
Oh, yeah,
and that's
sorry.
a lot-specific type of stormwater.
Anyone from the audience? I have a motion.
What's the motion for negative?
See, I'm used to getting NOIs for a build. This is, it's okay, right, Pat? an IDA for a bill?
Yeah, there's
I've never-
nothing in black and white in state or local bylaws whether you have to do it if you're within the 50 to 100-foot buffer. But in this case, we don't need to have the wetland line established
No,
by
we've
the
already
side because
done
we
all
already had
those
that.
things.
We don't have to deal with a buffer because that's already a permanent
Yeah.
buffer.
Yeah.
And the stormwater's taken care of. So if there were one that could be done under an RDA, it would appear that this would be.
Right, almost
Because
everything was
We're
already-
encouraging.
Yeah, that's what I thought, but
Right.
it's a
These
little
are
different.
up in the air from project to project, but in
Right.
this case, we've gone through the subdivision review. The other thing is a septic, there's going to be a Board of Health look at the septic system too, so that's another.
I think they already
They already
have
got
the
that
approval.
They
approval,
have-
right?
Oh, they got approved, okay.
All right, so I make a motion for -3.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See? And then we go down. Oh, this is the middle school.
What else you got?
The middle school.
Gotta find a new town.
What else do we have?
We need the easy town.
Is that it?
Okay, yeah, let me
Pat, do
see.
we have anything else?
I think that.
Yeah, wait a minute. I make a motion to accept the minutes for June 3rd, 2015.
As written.
That's written.
Second.
Sign, Carol. Do they have anything different?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Oh,
Nick.
one
Hold on.
other issue before we
Yeah.
close.
Go ahead.
Pat, 168 Central, did we talk about that? You had it under enforcement on here.
Why, what happened?
This is one that I'm gonna write enforcement order tomorrow.
Is this the wall?
Wall, yeah. Yeah, this.
Oh, the one that,
The guy who, yeah.
So I talked to him, he came in, I missed him. I
well,
talked
we
to
told him to come back
I know, I
to
know.
us, and we'll probably let him do it.
So he's gonna be on the 16th. I'll get him a letter.
Well, the thing is, he doesn't, there was dirt piled high, making runoff go towards his house. We
Yeah.
had all the dirt taken away.
Right.
And then now he needs the wall.
Right.
If you really needed the wall, it would have been
Okay,
before. but-
so motion to adjourn,
I
right?
make a motion. Oh,
What?
what, all right.
Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, Carol. Okay, there's no DEP number, so we can't do in the sunset.
We can't do now. We can do that.
Yeah, that's what I know. Okay, I make a motion that we accept the orders as written for 47, 49, 51,
Wait, he can't build a
53,
wall.
55
Oh, that's the seawall.
Surfside Road.
Yeah.
As written,
Second.
Yeah.
Second.
aye.
All those in favor?
All those in favor?
Aye. And the other one we can't do.
All right, we good, Carol?
Thank you.
Motion
Thank
to
you.
adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Second, gone.